Castle of Black Iron. By Drunken Tiger. Chapter 391, Shoulder the Responsibility. The alleged magical Snake Island was not the most powerful one among the numerous powers across Awentra archipelago, yet it was definitely the most infamous organization. When they boarded a ship, they would be pirates. When they disembarked, they would be bandits. As long as others could afford them, they would always do some part-time jobs as an organization of killers. They might be more adapted to fight other dark powers. If in Genuine country or Norman Empire, such an organization would have long been swept by the other forces and organizations in one day. However, they lived pretty well in the Awentra archipelago. Before meeting the guys from magical Snake Island, Zhang Tai had not imagined that an organization of killers and pirates could be that unscrupulous. After killing the opponent's man, they even dared to send the head back. If not being that unscrupulous or ignoring the men in Blue Sea Castle to a certain degree, he would never dare to do that. Everybody in Blue Sea Castle were impulsive to launch an attack. The first one was Adeline. With a flash of a red shadow, Adeline had already rushed up, causing an air-breaking sound from her short spears. It was Zhang Tai's first time seeing a female barbarian fighter launch an attack in the castle. The moment she moved, Zhang Tai instantly judged that Adeline had already reached LV8 like Gita. Barbarians' fighting skills were fierce, direct, and swift. Adeline was very good at using her short spears with great power. The moment she moved, the area within 5 meters was filled with her flashing shadows. That guy who sent the head here also didn't look weak. He was not flurried at all. Given his performance, he was even much powerful than Adeline. After 5 or 6 movements, that man punched towards Adeline's breasts. Adeline put her short spears horizontally to block it. He then directly boomed onto Adeline's short spears, sending Adeline flying back in the air at once. Adeline kept flying back over 10 meters before she touched the wall with her foot tip and rebounded back. The moment Adeline was boomed away by that man, the other men all roared and intended to rush forward. "Stop!" Alina's voice sounded timely. Hearing this order, even Gita, Perry widely opened their eyes and gasped like old oxes. They also stopped at once. Adeline, who wanted to charge back, also stopped her footsteps. Instead, she pointed at that person with the short spears. Behind Adeline, a great number of female barbarian fighters had already taken out of their short spears and aimed at that man, intending to throw their spears towards him. However, with arms crossed, that man just watched the surrounding people with a contemptuous sneer. "Do you want to defeat me using numbers? Go ahead then. But don't blame me for not giving you a heads up. I'm not here for killing, but I don't mind killing some of you. Even if you are LV9, do you think that you could survive here?" Adeline also put it bluntly. "If I was killed here, all the people in Blue Sea Castle have to accompany me in death. Although we magical Snake Island were not good at other things, we are always good at killing people." That guy added with his nascal holes facing the sky. "You also know about our power. We can easily sweep such a tiny Blue Sea Castle. I think you are not here to show your fighting skills. Just tell us, what do you want? By the way, I'm very satisfied with this gift. Thanks for killing a traitor of Blue Sea Castle." Alina smiled as she glanced at that head on the ground. "Traitor?" Hearing this, the guy from magical Snake Island became stunned for a short while. "Don't you know that? This guy was bribed by someone several days ago and wanted to kill me on my way to Blue Sea Castle. Therefore, I sent him away. Alas, I almost forgot this." Alina fondled her forehead. "Those who employed you might not fully believe in your real strength, therefore, they bribed another person in Blue Sea Castle as an alternate. I'm afraid they didn't tell you about it." After gazing at Alina for a while, that guy found she was not telling a lie. The guy being killed by magical Snake Island seemed to be fully within her expectations. Therefore, he was stunned slightly and became slightly kind. "What a charming fox. You are right. I'm here not for showing off my fighting strength, but for negotiating with Blue Sea Castle on behalf of magical Snake Island." "Negotiation?" Alina frowned her forehead. Right, negotiation. According to the intentions of our boss Bellis, the debt between Magical Snake Island and Blue Sea Castle is cleared off now. At the beginning, those B***stards who hired us to kill you had been swept by us. The employment between us had been cancelled off. I will not find you trouble from then on. We will not find trouble with you from now on. You'd better not have your men go to the headquarter of Rewarded Hunters Association anymore. We believe that even though Ballas Business Group could spend 1 million gold coins, it was still not a small expenditure for you. If you really drive us mad, we would carry out revenge at any price. By then, money won't work either. After thinking for a short while, Alina nodded. I agree, please notify your boss. I agree with this condition. But we have one more attached condition. What's that? Do you want us to compensate you for your loss? Magical Snake Island is not money-centered. The man casted a contemptuous smile. Our boss condition is to let you tell us who killed Phoenix that night. After you tell us about that, our debt would be cleared up. Don't tell me that Phoenix was killed by you. Given the strength of Blue Sea Castle, even the Bell Clan's guards could not kill Phoenix easily. Even though Phoenix had fallen in your trap, he could also escape safely. Additionally, according to our investigation, those guards of the Bell Clan didn't leave at all that night, therefore it must be somebody else who had killed Phoenix. Therefore, our condition is to know that guy who had killed Phoenix. Hearing this condition, Gita even slightly glanced at Zhang Tai while Alina sitting on the main seat didn't even look at Zhang Tai. She was afraid that her casual movement would arouse that guy's attention. Instead, she said mercilessly, "Is this your condition? You want to revenge that guy who had failed to assassinate me and let me to screw over my savior? Right, this is the condition for we Magical Snake Island to cancel off the debts between you and us. Phoenix is a member of the Round Table Warriors on Magical Snake Island. Based on the rules of we Magical Snake Island, we have to get revenge for the death of any member of Round Table Warriors. If we are not even that cohesive, our Magical Snake Island would not be Magical Snake Island anymore. If so, you can go back to tell your boss and the other Round Table Warriors on Magical Snake Island, I'm in Blue Sea Castle and waiting for you to kill me." Alina refused this condition at once. Hearing this reply, that guy on Magical Snake Island instantly looked grim before revealing a wisp of a sneer. "Don't you need to consider it more? You have to know that if you stir up our Magical Snake Island, you will not like the outcome at all. As our target and our enemy, you would see a completely different outcome. Have you made a decision? You should also know that you could survive the outcome if you piss off a woman. Although gold coins are not all purposeful, as long as it reaches a certain scale, it would help a lot of things come true." Alina watched that guest from Magical Snake Island like a proud queen. "I almost forgot to tell you that I've already entrusted Golden Rock Bank to audit and keep the properties of the Ballas Business Group. As long as I suffer from an accident, all the properties of Ballas Business Group would be converted into my insurance and fund for revenge. Anyone who could avenge me would gain all the properties of the Ballas Business Group. How much do you think the heads of Round Table Warriors on Magical Snake Island are worth? If I was truly killed, I wonder if there are any sharper powerhouses that would like to visit Magical Snake Island?" It was that guest's turn to change face. He had not imagined that such a charming fox could be that vicious. "If you Magical Snake Island want to fight me regardless of your lives, I will accompany you. Let's see who the final winner is." Zhang Tai, who didn't speak at all, just watched Alina. Not until then did he realize that this woman was so sharp. Although she looked weak, she was more responsible than many other men. Not until then did Alina glance at Zhang Tai casually and calmly, however, her eyes seemed to hide many things. According to Zhang Tai's temperament, of course he would not let a woman to take the burden for him. Even though he killed Phoenix in order to save her that night, he did it voluntarily. In his eyes, Magical Snake Island and the Round Table Warriors were nothing but fart. How could they scare him to hide behind a woman? Zhang Tai then revealed a smile towards Alina, which included a bit of relief, moving and more pride. Alina understood what Zhang Tai meant. She then slightly changed her face. "Carve, see off the guest." The female owner of Blue Sea Castle delivered the order at once. Alright, don't be regretful. That man glanced at Alina fiercely before turned around and left. Wait a moment. Kill him. The first voice was made by Zhang Tai while the second was from the female owner of Blue Sea Castle. The two voices almost sounded at the same time. The latter one sounded pretty resounding and high-pitched. Hearing this, the man from Magical Snake Island stopped at once. In comparison, hearing "kill him," all the female fighters threw their long-prepared short spears towards that man. Carve, Gita, and the other fighters on Alina's side had also charged at that guy at the same time. At the same time, Zhang Tai also moved. Although standing on Alina's side, the moment Zhang Tai moved, he had already stridden in the center of the hall. He then blocked Gita's way forward as he punched against Carve's fist, forcing Carve back. After that, he surged forward again and kicked Adeline's short spears. In a split second, he had stopped the three powerhouses' attack. At the same time, the man from Magical Snake Island rolled over on the ground and instantly escaped from those short spears thrown by those female fighters like a centipede twisting on the ground. Pooh, 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 pooh. 10 more short spears flew by that man, some of which hit the wall in the distance causing sparks on the hard wall while others directly inserted into the wooden floor of the Hall of Deliberation and made holes on the floor. All this indicated the great fighting strength of those female fighters. All this happened in a split second. The moment the others moved a bit, they had to stop involuntarily in the next. Nobody could imagine that Zhang Tai joined in so abruptly to block away the first round of attack for that guy from Magical Snake Island. Gita seemed to understand something. Pevri just watched Alina full of doubt while Adeline pointed at Zhang Tai with her short spears with a hostile expression. At this moment, that guy from Magical Snake Island was staring at Zhang Tai full of doubt. What's wrong? I've not heard boss talk about this mole at the woman's side. Why would this guy help me? It shouldn't be that. Having been very calm, although this female owner was still sitting on the main seat, her sharply undulant breasts indicated that her inside was not that calm at all. If we kill this guy at this moment, it would be hard to explain what happened then. Zhang Tai watched Alina and he shrugged. It's nothing to do with you. The female owner of Blue Sea Castle gritted her teeth and urged. I chopped off Phoenix's head. How come it was nothing to do with me? Zhang Tai smiled as he turned around towards that guest from Magical Snake Island who was watching Zhang Tai with a dubious look. At the same time, Zhang Tai instantly looked very righteous and sacred like an unrivaled swordsman in Chinese legend. I'm Peter Hamplister. I'm just a pioneer and have just been in St. Helena Island for about 1 week. My current status is the guest of Blue Sea Island and will leave St. Helena Island tomorrow. I was born to hate evil things. No dark thing is allowed to exist in my eyes. You can go back to tell your sh*t boss and those sh*t like roundtable warriors that I'm the one who chopped off Phoenix's head. If you be stars of Magical Snake Island would like to revenge, just come for me. If you don't dare to, you tell everybody else on Magical Snake Island to clean their necks and wait for me to come for you over there. You did that? The visitor from Magical Snake Island stared at Zhang Tai in an unimaginable look before glanced over the other guys in the Hall of Deliberation. He was confused whether this was a plot or trap or not. Given his look, he didn't believe in Zhang Tai's words at all. He found everything about Zhang Tai was not logical, including Zhang Tai's age, real strength, or motive to arise Magical Snake Island's hatred at this moment. What? You don't believe in me? Zhang Tai asked him. Brat, who do you think you are? Phoenix is a LV9 powerhouse. I persuade to not seek for death yourself. An icy light flashed across that man's eyes. Zhang Tai didn't speak. Instead, he directly rushed over there. The moment he pulled out his long sword from its sheath, he had already launched his storm-like attack towards that guy, including that guy into sharp sword chi at once. As the old saying goes, the moment an expert moved, he would show his proficiency. Similarly, the moment Zhang Tai moved, that guy with a contemptuous look had already jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on. At the sight of Zhang Tai's attack, everybody in Blue Sea Castle widened their mouths out of amazement. Watching Zhang Tai's performance, they realized that Zhang Tai's swordsmanship had long surpassed each of them. At the beginning, they could not see the difference between Zhang Tai and that guy. But as Zhang Tai kept attacking him, he took the preemptive move gradually. As a result, the man from Magical Snake Island gradually moved to the defense-focused side as his face turned red gradually. At this moment, even those people who didn't understand why Alina brought Zhang Tai in the castle had figured it out that Peter was a swordsmanship powerhouse who was even sharper than a LV9 powerhouse. Zhang Tai's swordsmanship was so fast and fierce, which was seen by them for the first time. After 5 to 6 minutes fight, with a miserable scream, blood was seen spraying in the air while an arm and an ear flew off the guy coming from Magical Snake Island. At the same time, he was sent flying back in the air before fell to the ground heavily. With a clash, Zhang Tai waved a beautiful curve in the air before put his sword back into the sheath. He then watched the man lying on the floor with a proud look. "Do you believe in me now? I only leave a mark on you this time. When I see you next time, I will chop off your head. Arg, brat, you are dead, you are dead. Our boss will definitely kill you if you dare to kill anyone from Magical Snake Island. I will wait. You have 1 minute to disappear in front of me. Otherwise, I will chop off another hand. Do you want to have a try?" After taking out of a vial of medicament from his coat by his shaking hand and eating it, the guy glared at Zhang Tai deeply before turned around and tumbled away. "Parav, please see off this guy, keep him alive on the way back. If he dies, I'll have to find the other B****stards from Magical Snake Island to pass along my words." Zhang Tai smiled. Everybody in the Blue Sea Castle then watched Zhang Tai with awestruck looks. Chapter 392, Leaving St. Herner Island. Zhang Tai already had the same wet dream about Miss Dana numerous times: luxurious dining table, snow-white tablecloth, burning candles, dim yet ambiguous candlelight. In a sexy skirt, Miss Dana revealed half of her plumpy breasts. Sitting on the opposite of the dining table, she was watching Zhang Tai. Each time she put the food on her knife and fork into her opening cherry lips, she would tease him. The dream always started with a dinner yet never ended over the table. Zhang Tai once just treated it as a dream which could never be realized. But at this moment, when this familiar dreamland appeared in front of him, he was shocked and sighed. Sitting on the opposite of the dining table was not Miss Dana, instead Alina, who looked very similar to Miss Dana. At this moment, Alina was absolutely a noble woman who used to attend to the cocktail party of top-class society. With a brilliant diamond hairpin on her coiled hair, she was wearing a set of beautiful blue bobtails with purple grains. The bobtail was skin-tight, which well revealed her good frame as a mature woman. Especially when she stood up, the extremely large yet firm U-shaped collar of her bobtail was like a bottomless canyon, which was mysterious and alluring. It could arouse people's endless desire for exploration as it included an unknown danger. Alina had well dressed. It was a beautiful and delicate makeup, especially for an evening reception, which made her pretty, elegant yet sexy, and absolutely a noble woman. Zhang Tai had not been that impulsive for a long time. However, when he was brought to the dining room by a beautiful female servant, at the sight of Alina, Zhang Tai felt his heart burning and felt his throat becoming dry. At this moment, Alina was completely Miss Dana in his dreamland. Being shocked, under the warm yet ambiguous candlelights, Zhang Tai could not identify whether he was in reality or in the dreamland. When the fiery candle burned, it smelt pretty good. Smelling this fragrance, Zhang Tai started to have a maggot in his head. Zhang Tai felt being a bit dizzy and a strong desire for sprouting something from inside. When those beautiful female servants served the dishes on the table, he loosened his shirt's buttons. "Are you feeling hot?" Alina was sitting on the opposite of the dining table, which was longer than 4 meters, which seemed to be an unreachable distance. Through the candlelight of the silver candlesticks, Zhang Tai threw a glance at Alina and saw that pretty delicate diamond necklace hanging from her neck to the place between her breasts, which was shining brightly in the candlelight. At this moment, the woman's half-exposed plumpy breasts seemed to expand greatly. Zhang Tai felt his throat almost smoking. He then hurriedly took a cup from a side. Before looking at the liquid, he had already finished his drink. It was white wine in the cup. As he drank it too quickly, he almost choked. As a result, he started to cough heavily. Seeing this, the woman on the opposite burst of laughter, causing Zhang Tai feel like he lost a bit of face. Cough, cough, I thought it was water. Zhang Tai explained. But I truly feel a bit hot. Is that hot? I don't feel that. You are the first one who feels hot at night on St. Helena Island. Perhaps, there are too many candles here. Oh, maybe. Then, we will have a candle moved away. At this moment, that woman smiled like an aunt who caught small kids in the kindergarten. He looked pretty comprehensive. The woman then waved her hand to let a female servant move away one candle. Soon after that, the room looked a bit dimmer. The female servant who moved away the candle was the one of those lying on Zhang Tai's bed this morning. She glanced at Zhang Tai in a teasing manner, causing Zhang Tai to become restless. No need to be that solemn, I will leave tomorrow. Do you think this is solemn for a person who saved my life twice? The woman's voice sounded a bit sad. I've told you that as long as you could help me that time, I'd like to pay you at any price. I mean it. Any price. Thinking of her promise 2 days ago and watching that alluring woman in front of him, Zhang Tai had a maggot in his head at once. However, the moment the whim appeared, Zhang Tai had chased it away in his mind. A love affair between a man and a woman is very nice. If you treat it as a condition for something, it would be not right then. No, of course, I don't think you are kidding, but I really don't need your reward at all. I'm very happy in Blue Sea Castle these days, especially last night. You've already made it, no need to feel guilty or that you owe me anything at all. Of course, Alina knew what Zhang Tai meant by especially last night. Zhang Tai's frankness and generosity was out of Alina's imagination. Do you know how many things would you lose by saying this? Although the Ballast Business Group doesn't rank first in Awentra, it's still a big business group which owned tens of millions gold coins and could also rank top 20. Don't you want to reconsider it? All those who are familiar with me know that I rarely promise anything to people. Gold coins and wealth might be very precious, but in my eyes, what is truly precious is living creatures. Sometimes a small earthworm or a small grass is far more precious than them. This morning, as you wanted to stop that guy from leaving, you've already ceased to owe me anything at all. Zhang Tai sincerely said. Additionally, I don't feel that anything could be more precious than the thing that you wished to shoulder for me this morning. Hearing this, Alina gazed at Zhang Tai for a while as her eyes sparkled in the candlelight. Not until several seconds later did she recover her composure and let out a deep sigh. You are right. Something between people is truly more precious than gold coins. I have no relatives now, even sons or daughters. As a woman, it is very sad to be alone at this age. If only I could have a relative like you on my side. Zhang Tai scratched his head and thought for a short while. Then, he also felt this woman was very miserable. He then asked, do you feel I should call you Aunt Alina or Sister Alina? You tell me. The woman glanced at Zhang Tai in a charming manner. Watching her mature, beautiful face and that pair of boobs which almost jumped out of her bobtail, Zhang Tai then replied, I will call you sister then. The woman in the opposite then burst out laughing, causing her body quiver and showing her charming look. Watching this, Zhang Tai forcefully swallowed his saliva once again. Well, you just call me sister from then on. Actually, based on my age, that's reasonable. Before you leave St. Helena Island, let your sister Alina invite you to enjoy some great food. The female owner of the castle then clapped as those female servants served the dishes one plate after another. The supper was truly the most sumptuous one that Zhang Tai had ever eaten. Alina didn't mention the compensation for Zhang Tai, neither did Zhang Tai ask about it. They just talked about other topics very tacitly like family members. Gradually, several hours passed. Zhang Tai admitted that if he had no maggot in his head, he would feel very comfortable while eating supper together with her both visually and acoustically, even gustatorily. It felt pretty pleasant only watching her putting food in her mouth gracefully. After supper, Zhang Tai bade a farewell to her politely before returning to his own room. Less than 10 minutes after Zhang Tai returned to his room, the 4 beautiful female servants who had fought over him last night had knocked at his door. The moment they walked in, they had already stripped off their clothes. After that, they climbed onto Zhang Tie's bed and started to take off clothes for Zhang Tai. For Zhang Tai, of course, he started to enjoy the following process. He then totally released his desire that had been oppressed since the beginning of the supper. 1 hour later, Zhang Tai's door was pushed open once again as another 4 beautiful female servants walked in. How about playing a game? You are forbidden to look. Just identify while covering your eyes. When you get it right, you will get the reward. A female servant murmured to Zhang Tai as she took out a black blindfold from out of nowhere to cover Zhang Tai's eyes. Of course, Zhang Tai didn't mind playing this game at this moment. Instead, he felt more stimulated. However, after a short while, when he entered a hot and tight V*G*N*, he smelt a familiar fragrance. At the same time, he faintly heard an obviously oppressive, strange yet very familiar groan. Zhang Tai became slightly stunned, however, he didn't move away his blindfold. Instead, he was in a pretty violent and excited state. Later on, in a period as long as that of the supper, Zhang Tai tightly seized the woman under his body in the darkness to prevent her from escaping. Zhang Tai was so crazy and rude that he injected his bodily fluids into different holes on her body and sprayed it all over her body, including her face, breasts, butts, thighs, and lower abdomen. After spraying out his bodily fluids one time after another, Zhang Tai felt that he finally returned to an elegant harbor which looked like a mirror that reflected the sun in the autumn after being restless 17 years like a small boat in a terrifying storm. Early the next morning, August 5th, many people from Blue Sea Castle gathered at the pier of St. Herner Harbor to see Zhang Tai off, including Alina, Gitta, Carve and Adeline. 3 women with strange tattoos on their faces were at Alina's side. 2 of the 3 women were bald. They were twins. In the same armor with flame grains, they both felt very oppressive, causing Gitta and Carve stand away from them. As for the other woman, she covered herself in a black robe with a circle of colorful bird feathers over her waist and a necklace composed of various animal skulls and odd stones. The 3 women arrived at Blue Sea Castle last night, who were powerhouses assigned from Adeline's tribe. Since Zhang Tai caught sight of them yesterday, he had not heard them speak. Instead, they were just like mutes in a cool manner. The siren of the passenger liner weighing tens of thousands of tons had sounded twice. The steamer was going to set off while Alina, Gitta, and Carve were all bidding farewell to Zhang Tai. As it was a bit cold in the morning in the harbor, Alina wore a white martin, showing a very indolent and charming look. Overnight, everybody found that the female owner looked bright like a bud opened when being watered. Carve was touching his beard while thinking about something. Gitta kept his eyes swimming between Zhang Tai and Alina. As for Adeline, she looked hostile about Zhang Tai once again like a warehouse keeper catching a guy who was preparing to dig a hole at the corner of the wall. Zhang Tai and Alina then exchanged glances with each other. Alina's face slightly blushed. Zhang Tai wanted to say something, however, finally, he found that he didn't know what to say to this woman. It felt very sophisticated. Bon voyage. After saying this, Zhang Tai directly embraced Alina tightly. Take care of yourself. Alina kissed Zhang Tai's cheeks before taking out a delicate box and gave it to Zhang Tai. This is an item that the Ballast Business Group gained several years ago. I might be helpful to you. Zhang Tai didn't even see inside, instead, he directly put it in his coat. 2 LV5 men 100 m away were gazing at us since our fleet of cars left the castle. I feel they are hostile towards us. One barbarian shaman who was always silent pointed at Zhang Tai. Her special ability gained Zhang Tai's attention. Gitta. Alina shouted as Gitta turned around and intended to walk towards them. No need. Zhang Tai stopped Gitta. They are just some scouts, it doesn't work even if we kill them. Actually, more people are watching me on board. I bought my ticket a couple of days ago. Those guys from Magical Snake Island could never know that I would leave today. Just let them find me in the ice and snow wilderness. After saying this, Zhang Tai shouted towards the 2 scouts 100 m away. The asterisk starts from Magical Snake Island. Your grandpa Peter is waiting for you in the ice and snow wildness. Let's see how many heads of your mother asterisk king roundtable warriors would be chopped off by me, ha ha ha. Zhang Tie's voice was so loud that so many people in the surrounding had heard it. As a result, they all exchanged glances at each other and were amazed. Few people dare to provoke people from Magical Snake Island in the public. The huge steamer siren sounded once again and was preparing to leave the harbor while the bridge stair being placed against the huge steamer started to be moved away. With loud laughter, Zhang Tai turned around and ran towards the huge steamer on his side. He ran onto the bridge stair the moment it left the huge steamer and jumped onto the board several meters away. He then waved his hands towards them. The two scouts who were watching Zhang Tai from afar were stunned at once. Even if there were still powerhouses on St. Helena Island from Magical Snake Island, they would have no time to embark anymore. Instead, they could only watch Zhang Tai leave. Chapter 393, Firm Decisions. About 1,400 kilometers away to the southeast of St. Helena Island, there was an island which covered about 200 square kilometers. On this island, there was a volcano that kept releasing black smoke into the sky all year round. Besides, a great amount of magma also sprouted out of the seabed near the island. As a result, the vapor made this sea area hot while always being covered by dense fog. This area was full of mystery. In the legends shared by sailors of the Uentra archipelago, the sea area nearby this island was where demons lived. The magma which poured out of the seabed not only extended this island several square kilometers each year, but also filled the neighboring water with various hidden reefs that were formed by congealed magma. Like this island, those hidden reefs also changed each year. Even the most experienced captains and sailors would not be close to this sea area. Additionally, according to the legend, there was even a terrifying magical snake in this sea area which usually took passing vehicles and numerous living beings as food. The legend about the magical snake in this sea area could be dated back to several hundreds years ago. That was why this island was named as Magical Snake Island. Although many people spoke about the magical snake, few of them had ever seen it. However, those living on Magical Snake Island were much more terrifying than that magical snake. This was Magical Snake Island, one of the most infamous and frightening places across the Uentra archipelago. On the evening of August 5th, in a mountain cave that was brightly lit, all the top figures on Magical Snake Island gathered there. Surrounding a stony round table they were discussing a person with solemn looks, a person who appeared on St. Helena Island as a pioneer, Peter Hamplister. Where does this *** come from? A furious sound resonated in the cave. Did he really dare to speak on the pier of St. Helena Harbor? Really, besides our scouts on St. Helena Island, many people on the pier heard it. Hearing this reply, another round of swears could be heard in the mountain cave. At this moment, an icy and hoarse voice sounded when all the other voices disappeared. Bunny, how about that man's fighting strength according to your battle in Blue Sea Castle? The man who asked was over 50 years old with only one eye while the other eye was wearing a black eye patch. Sitting on the east of the round table, he looked gray and thin. Besides this, he was filled with a brutal sense. Bonnie was that guy whose hand and ear were chopped off by Zhang Tai in Blue Sea Castle. At this moment, he was also sitting beside the stone round table with hatred on his face. Boss, he's only a bit more powerful than me. His swordsmanship is very sharp. I'm not sure about his level. He might be LV8 or LV9. If we don't kill him, how will we on Magical Snake Island live in this sea area? Only a bit more powerful than you? Yes, I'm sure. Bonnie replied loudly. If so, brothers, who'd like to bring that man's head back from the ice and snow wildness? LV10 is suggested. We need to let him know the outcome of being hostile towards Magical Snake Island. We have to solve this quickly. With one blinded eye, Bellis Ken said while he glanced over all the others sitting around the stone round table. Over 10 people were sitting around the round table. Hearing Bellis Ken's words, more than half of them kept silent. Instead, they glanced over the other 6 to 7 people who were also exchanging glances with each other. I will be there. I've not tasted such a fresh boy for a long time. A 40-odd-year-old guy revealed an obscene smile. He looked very righteous, like a priest, before he smiled. However, the moment he smiled, he instantly showed the gold teeth that covered his mouth. None of them were true teeth. At the sight of this, all the others felt chilly inside, including Bonnie, who was screaming loudly just now and instantly moved their eyes away from him. "Dawson, you just need to bring back that brat's head. You'd better not do anything excessive. The ice and snow wildness is not like a winter archipelago as it belongs to Slavas. If you do anything excessive, you might not be able to come back alive." Belisken glanced at Dawson seriously before warning him. "I know, I can control myself. Besides that brat, I will not stir up any trouble. Oh, on my way back, can I take a trip to Blue Sea Castle?" Showing his gold teeth, Dawson ground his gold teeth when he mentioned Blue Sea Castle, causing a jarring frictional sound. "Let's call it an end about St. Herner Island. That woman is a sharp figure. As she has bound Ballas Business Group with her life, if she was in trouble, Golden Rock Bank might directly attack us, considering the wealth of the Ballas Business Group. Additionally, 2 barbarian powerhouses above LV-10 were assigned there to protect her, plus a barbarian shaman. We might suffer a great loss if we want to kill her." "Then, we just forget about the shame?" someone asked. Belisken glanced over everybody on the stone table while a shrew light flashed by his only one eye. "There are always chances. It's not peaceful on the continent recently. Demons have been impatient. Therefore, we only need to wait for a short period. I believe that we will soon leave Magical Snake Island." "Boss, I heard that the relics about pre-catastrophe human civilization was found on ice and snow wildness. There might be the fragments of the Star of God, won't we?" "Do you think that you can touch the fragments of the Star of God?" Belisken shouted loudly out of fury, causing that guy quiver all over. "Without a level above night or a powerful reliance, you are only going there for death. There's only one guy across a winter archipelago who's reluctantly qualified to compete for that thing. The old D****Chabag on the Stars and Moon Island." Saying this, the one-eyed head gritted his teeth while the only left eye turned holy red. "That old D****Chabag made one of my eyes blind, making me hide in this mother***king place many years." After hearing the news, the old D****Chabag would definitely go there. "I hope he was killed over there. That way, I will definitely kill all the clan members of that old D****Chabag on Stars and Moon Island." "Boss, as long as you can reach one level higher, you will be a knight. By then, you will not be afraid of that old D****Chabag anymore." A LV-9 guy who had just reached LV-9 flattered. Flattery existed everywhere. Even in Magical Snake Island, such kind of people also existed among the central figures of Magical Snake Island. The alleged Round Table warriors all had distinctive fighting strengths which caused different positions. Among them, the most powerful and privileged one was definitely Belisken, the boss of Magical Snake Island. Have reached LV-15, he was a standard fighting spirit. As for others, the one with the lowest fighting strength had also reached LV-9. According to the opinions of fans of this book, I slightly adjusted the ranks that mentioned previously. After the adjustment, the ranks would be Strong Fighter, Fighting Master, Great Fighting Master, Fighting Master, Fighting Demon and Fighting Spirit. Drunk Tiger, the author. That flatterer didn't know that he had flattered the wrong man this time. "You mean I'm afraid of that old D****Chabag? Belisken glared at that guy on the opposite of him with only one eye as he narrowed his eyes and uttered an icy voice. "Boss, I don't mean that." That guy's face turned pale at once as he hurriedly explained with a poor look. Nobody wanted to hear his own explanation. In an organization composed of pirates and killers, of course, the boss had his own way to preserve his authority. From several meters away, Belisken directly punched out a fist with blue battle chi which was as large as one's head. In a split second, it had striken onto that guy and exploded him into flying blood and broken fleshes, which even splattered onto the others' bodies and faces. Some of them were so scared that they dared not to make any sound at all while someone else looked nothing had happened. Dawson just gritted his gold teeth while stretching out his long tongue to clean off the blood that splattered onto his lower lip. He looked enjoying it very much. A wise person who knows how to stay away from a powerful enemy to preserve his own fighting strength is not equal to be afraid of his enemy. After easily killing that LV9 guy, Belisken explained icily. After that he glanced at Dawson, who was licking the fresh blood over his face, and said, "Dawson, you go to ice and snow wildness tonight." "Yes, sir." Zhang Tai didn't know that after he left St. Herner Island by Polar Light huge ship for less than 1 day, he had been chased after by a powerhouse assigned from Magical Snake Island. Whereas, this was in Zhang Tai's expectation. Besides not knowing what kind of person would be assigned to assassinate him by Magical Snake Island, he was not amazed about anything else, as he had already taken this crisis brought by Magical Snake Island as a challenge. As early as that guy from Magical Snake Island raved in Blue Sea Castle to force Alina revealed the one who had killed their man, Zhang Tai had already prepared for this day. With his current fighting strength, if he used sword, he was confident to kill that LV9 guy from Magical Snake Island in 2 minutes. If he used any throwing weapons, he could narrow time into several seconds. However, Zhang Tai kept hiding his real fighting strength. The reason was Zhang Tai knew that after he left Blue Sea Castle, Magical Snake Island would definitely assign someone to assassinate him. As long as he didn't perform extremely powerful in Blue Sea Castle, the people assigned by Magical Snake Island would not be the most powerful one. Instead, they would just assign someone that they estimated to kill Zhang Tai definitely. After all, powerhouses above LV9 were not easily found anywhere. In Huayuan Palace, such people were precious resources, let alone in Awentra Archipelago. As the old Chinese saying goes, high-quality steel should be used to build high-quality blade. Undoubtedly, a LV-10 powerful fighter was actually enough to deal with one person who could reluctantly defeat a common LV-9 fighter. After experiencing being chased after by a strong fighter, Zhang Tai knew it clearly that even if the most average strong fighter had already lit over 55 surging points. Compared to a LV-9 fighter, a strong fighter would have lit at least 20 more surging points. On fighting strength, a strong fighter would at least be 1 time more powerful than a common LV-9 fighter. A strong fighter would cause Zhang Tai very embarrassed. Facing Fighting Master, Zhang Tai could only directly jump into the sea to escape. Of course, the killer being assigned by Magical Snake Island to assassinate Zhang Tai depended on Zhang Tai's performance in Blue Sea Castle. Therefore, when Zhang Tai chose to shoulder the threat from Magical Snake Island bravely, he was actually driving himself forward greatly. Meanwhile, he was gradually influencing the possible strategies which were taken by Magical Snake Island on dealing with him. Additionally, it also spared a chance for him to jump into the sea to escape in the future. Zhang Tai would like to see whether he could stand the attack from a possible strong fighter assigned by Magical Snake Island. He wanted to see whether the speed and fighting strength brought by 7 strength fruits could help him defeat that powerful enemy, which was always his concern. If Lan Yunqi could make it, I could make it too. Albeit I could not match her on the most powerful bloodline that she has awakened. My castle of black iron and that small tree could not be matched by anyone else either. The most ideal result is that, in order to kill me, Magical Snake would assign all of its round table warriors one by another to assassinate me. Finally I killed them all one by one, causing the rest be asterisk stars on Magical Snake Island, not bring any trouble to the other people anymore. Zhang Tai had already made the decision when he embarked. Now that I've left my home, I will change from an ant to a Chinese dragon. The first step was to step this poisonous snake Magical Snake Island under my feet. Chapter 394, Devil's North Wind Area. The polar light had entered the Devil's North Wind area of the Oro Strait on the 2nd day since it left St. Herner Island. From then on, it started to cross the sea. As a strait in the southernmost part of the ice and snow wildness, the Oro Strait was the only route from the Awentra Archipelago to the ice and snow wildness in the north. Not until Zhang Tai came to Oro Strait did he understand why they could only enter the ice and snow wildness by sea. The reason was that airships didn't work in this region at all because of the terrifying Devil's North Wind area in the Oro Strait. During the past year in Hidden Dragon Palace, Zhang Tai had learned a lot. At least, he had read the creation of the Devil's North Wind area in Oro Strait from the textbook titled Continental Geography, a powerful air convection and cyclone between the subpolar low-pressure area of the ice and snow wilderness and subtropical high-pressure area of the Uinta archipelago. The terrifying north wind originated from the air convections between different pressure areas over this star. This convection would not come to an end, neither would the terrifying north wind above Oro Strait. Being pushed by such a powerful north wind, an ocean current with the greatest flowing speed across Way subcontinent formed in the Sea of Oro Strait, ocean current in the wilderness. Because of the same constant north wind, the airspace above Oro Strait also became a forbidden region for airships. In that age, no airship could fly across this devil's north wind area. Perhaps the aircrafts before the catastrophe could do that, however, for an airship, although its huge body and great height, it was nothing different than a kite in the terrifying north wind area. The moment any airship drew close to this place, it would be blown away from the north wind and gradually fly towards the south instead of heading for the ice and snow wilderness. Because of the devil's north wind area in Oro Strait, this strait became the forbidden area of all the air traffic vehicles in this age. Additionally, even Zhang Tie's passenger liner started to move forward slowly. The liner's normal speed was 18 nautical miles per hour. Since it entered this area on the second day, its speed instantly dropped to 10 nautical miles per hour facing the surging waves over 10 meters in height. Zhang Tai was told on board that it would take them 7 days of bumpy travel on the sea to reach Escale City in the southernmost part of the ice and snow wilderness. Escale City was a window for the ice and snow wilderness to exchange with the Uinta archipelago and the rest of the world as the only city in the ice and snow wilderness. Compared to the vast ice and snow wilderness, Escale City was not even a sesame on a pie on the pioneering map. Zhang Tai bought a tourist-class ticket. For people who had to sail across the sea for 7 days, of course, they would not just stay in their own cabins. Instead, they could also enjoy themselves in dining rooms, bars, and gambling houses on board. It was very boring on the ship. Besides polishing his surge points and cultivation in trouble reappearance situations, Zhang Tai also went out of his own cabin sometimes and ate something in the dining room. Meanwhile, he would take a look at the Oro Strait. During these days of travel over the sea, Zhang Tai had become acquainted with some new friends, Sam, Jerry, and Isle. Sam and Jerry were pioneers and bosom friends. After being told that pre-catastrophe relics and pieces of the Star of God were discovered in the ice and snow wilderness, they had been heading for there to seek fortune. Al was a businessman who specialized in trading furs and food between the ice and snow wilderness and the Uinta archipelago. Zhang Tai's cabin was linked to the other 3. Besides their own independent space, the 4 cabins shared the same narrow passage and a washroom. It felt like a dorm at school. After staying on board for 2 days, Zhang Tai had already acquainted with the other 3. Under the impact of his powerful spiritual energy, the purple surge point uttered a booming sound in Zhang Tai's mind like a collapsing dam. Following that, the purple brilliance flew in all directions and gradually disappeared in Zhang Tai's body. Then, a red spark started to appear at the surge point before turning into a blazing flame. With the warmth radiated from this surging point, Zhang Tai felt that part of the darkness that covered his body had been driven away. At the same time, the joint of the 15th vertebrae uttered a crisp sound like an opened metal lock, causing a numb, cool sense that was similar to that of an orgasm. This sense spread from his nervus centralis all the way to his brain, making Zhang Tai hum out of control due to excitement. The 15th surging point on his spine was finally broken through by Zhang Tai's spiritual energy. Not until that numb sense completely faded away did Zhang Tai let out a sigh before standing up from his bed. He stretched out his limbs before put the pyramid-based crystal into castle of black iron. Zhang Tai then felt that he had greater physical strength. Besides, he felt his limbs becoming more coordinated. Additionally, he felt something agile in the location of the Qi Si where the soul fire entered and the shrine surge point as if some stones were moved away from a solid hinterland of a mountain. Since the 14th surging point was lit, Zhang Tai had felt that slight changes would happen in the Qi Si of his lower abdomen each time he lit a new surge point. If it was in Black Hot City, Zhang Tai definitely didn't know what such changes indicated. However, at this moment, Zhang Tai knew that it was the prelude of opening his Qi Si. The greatest difference between a LV9 fighter who had lit at least 34 surging points and a LV10 strong fighter who had lit at least 55 surging points lay in the fact that a LV10 strong fighter had also opened his or her Qi besides lighting all the surge points on his or her spine. Qi, Sea of Battle Qi, was the source of the greatness of a fighter. The difference between a LV10 strong fighter who had opened his or her Qi and a LV9 fighter was decisive. Their great difference in fighting strength and physical quality could be identified from the different numbers of surge points that they had lit, which was even greater than the total fighting strength from LV1 to LV8. That was to say, from LV10, each level higher would be a chasm that could hardly be exceeded by the likes of commoners. At this moment, the value of some top ancestral bloodlines among the Chinese would gradually stand out. Zhang Tai knew that he was still far away from opening his Qi. It would take him about 2 years to open his Qi. He needed to lit another 40 surge points. Each surge point had 7 barriers in different colors, which meant 280 barriers in total. Zhang Tai knew that one leakless fruit could break through 3 barriers. In this way, he needed to consume at least 93 leakless fruits before reaching LV10. It took 93 weeks for 93 leakless fruits to grow mature, namely 651 days or 22 months. However, at this moment, Zhang Tai didn't even know how to improve himself to reach LV9 and LV10, which were the most important stages. The cultivation knowledge after LV9, especially the content on lighting surge points, was the top secret knowledge. People had to spend a lot of clan contribution points and reach LV9. Besides this, they had to pass a strict examination before being qualified to learn it. By now, Zhang Tai had not even reached any condition. Of course, he was not qualified to learn it. To improve from LV7 to LV10 in 2 years, which was a rocketing speed for commoners, however, for Zhang Tai, it was still too slow. His master Zhao Yuan told him that in many real powerhouses' eyes, LV9 and LV10 were only the beginning of the cultivation process. Zhang Tai knew clearly that in the later stages, each level would require an exponential increase in the number of surge points to be lit. By contrast, the function of the leakless fruit would gradually become less observable. Additionally, the Third Holy War was drawing near. After the event in Heaven's Cold City, Zhang Tai faintly felt that this holy war might be more miserable, while demons might have greater power than the people could imagine. After thinking for a second, Zhang Tai realized that he had not entered the castle of black iron for over 2 weeks. After 2 weeks' accumulation, there should be 2 more leakless fruits on the small tree. Zhang Tai was slightly stretching his limbs in his cabin and intending to eat the 2 leakless fruits in the castle of black iron so as to break through the 6 barriers of the 16th surge point on the spine when his hatch door boomed. Bang, 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 Peter, are you in there? The moment Zhang Tai heard this voice, he had given up his thoughts of entering the castle of black iron. With a helpless smile, he then opened the hatch door. 2 pioneers who looked a bit older than Zhang Tai were standing outside the hatch door. The one on the left looked a bit fatter with observable purplish hair, while the one on the right looked thinner and taller. Besides brown skin, he had black hair, tall nose, and gleaming eyes. "Oh, hi, Peter." At sight of Zhang Tai opening the door, the fatter one shouted. "What's up, Sam?" Zhang Tai still asked kindly. He didn't feel unhappy about being disturbed at all. "I haven't seen you step foot out of your door since yesterday afternoon. Don't you feel bored inside? Jerry and I are going for supper, therefore, we are here to call you out to head there together." After saying this, Sam gazed at Zhang Tai. "You look red, are you sick?" "Arg, no, I was just sleeping." Zhang Tai told a lie. Having lit a surge point, his qi and blood were all activated, causing his face to become a bit red in a short period as if he was exercising. However, Zhang Tai didn't think it necessary to tell the truth. Sam was only LV4 while Jerry was only LV5. They had been extremely excellent among pioneers of the same age. "Were you sleeping?" Jerry stealthily glanced at that narrow room which could only hold a bed and a desk with a weird smile. "Were you there doing something weird? I know, you feel bored all alone." When you do that, you would always be excited. I know, but don't always do that, it's not good for your health. What are you talking about it? Zhang Tai asked out of doubt. Jerry then held nothing in the air with a hand before moved up and down, which was familiar to almost every man. If you are too bored, why not take a look in the gambling house after supper? I was told that many beauties were inside. Al had won more than 2 gold coins in the gambling house yesterday, which was almost equal to half of his ticket price. He went there early this morning again and hasn't come back even now. Zhang Tai revealed a smile as he scratched his hair. He had not imagined that it had even arisen others' misunderstanding after cultivating for so long in his room. It truly is a bit weird. I will take a walk outside to get some fresh air. No matter what, the leakless fruits will not run away by themselves. I can eat them this evening. Fine, let's go. Saying this, Zhang Tai locked his door before walking out of the narrow passage which was paved with an anti-slip corrugated steel plate. I was told that the VIP cabins upstairs were much better than ours. They are like chartered rooms in high-end hotels. Besides, their passages are paved with carpets. There is also a club in the VIP area. I met a female blonde bartender there yesterday with a pair of ears of a bunny girl. Sam said with an admirable look / when we become rich, we will also try the VIP cabins. If so, we will not feel tired of traveling here and there anymore. Jerry burst into laughter. When you become rich and can afford 20 gold coins for a shipping ticket, will you still travel here and there for pioneering work? That's it. When we have money, why would we look for pioneering work? Sam also realized that as he patted his head. Jerry, tell me about your ideal life after becoming rich. When I have money, of course I will raise a great number of beauties in my castle. I will create a great clan by sowing seeds every day like a seeder. Hearing this answer, Zhang Tai also smiled. Cut it out, guys. Peter, what about you? Me? Zhang Tai pointed at his own nose. Yeah, even if we are pioneers, we should also have dreams. Dreams? Zhang Tai recalled that dream, lying on a pile of gold coins at an old age and watching a number of beauties dropping off tears in front of him. He then shook his head. Every man wishes for that life, but in this Mother * King age, they should be able to survive first. If I can live safely and steadily, I almost have the same dream as Jerry. Zhang Tai told them honestly. You're too pessimistic. Do you only want to survive by yourself? The death and injury rate of pioneers are not too high. Additionally, if there are truly urban relics in the ice and snow wilderness, we will just follow the greater part of people there and share a bit. It should be safe. Sam comforted Zhang Tai. Trust me, you have me. Jerry patted his own chest. Thanks. Zhang Tai smiled. We're friends. The fact was that Zhang Tai's thought about living safely and steadily was not useless, especially in this age, on this mystical sea. Soon after they finished their very average supper in the average dining room, they had heard a specific, rapid and transient frequency which was very jarring, like a warning. None of them knew what this indicated. However, before they asked others, an extremely tarrying sound screamed in the dining room. Class 1 warning. A super large dangerous creature is drawing close to our ship. Please hold fast to anything that is bolted down and stationary. Right after this voice, the ship quivered heavily, shaking off many tablewares from the tables onto the ground. Chapter 395, A Huge Deep-Sea Monster. Every ship that could freely access the Oro Strait weighed tens of thousands tons. So did Polar Light. With a length of 300 m, it could displace over 6,000 tons of seawater when it had a full load. This was definitely the biggest ship that Zhang Tai had ever seen. Even in Huaiyuan Prefecture, it would be qualified as a huge ship. At this moment, Polar Light was close to having a full load. Besides its over 4,000 passengers, it also carried over 30,000 tons of materials. Try to imagine the strength required to shock such a huge ship. Most people inside the dining room were holding on to anything that was bolted down to secure themselves while Zhang Tai rushed outside at once. Peter, where are you going? Sam screamed. Don't worry, I'm just taking a look outside. Zhang Tai replied as he ran. What a crazy guy. Saying this, Jerry made a gesture towards Sam. Let's have a look at that thing. If something really happens to our ship, it is same both in and out the dining room. Sam nodded as the two people ran towards the door of the dining room. Only a few stepped away after they moved, they were thrown onto the ground by another huge shock. F***ck. Sam swore. At this moment, Zhang Tai had already rushed out of the dining room. Before the second huge shock, Zhang Tai had jumped off the ground. After stepping onto the wall of the passage, he immediately landed on the corridor outside the cabin. Many people rushed out after Zhang Tai. About half of the 4,000-odd passengers in this ship were pioneers. Some of them didn't know what happened at all, they only wanted to see what was happening outside. Some of them were very bold. When they were told that Polar Light encountered an attack from some dangerous creature, they also ran out due to the excitement. The north wind was whistling outside the cabin while waves were surging high. The moment Zhang Tai rushed out, he had heard a voice, "It's at the fore." Zhang Tai then sped up towards the front of the ship before witnessing an extremely shocking scene. Zhang Tai saw a terrifying tentacle stretching out of the sea which contained an immense number of suckers. It was dozens of meters in height and was twisting at the fore of the Polar Light. Shortly after that, it started to whip the board, causing the whole ship shake heavily like a fish being lashed. Although the metal structure of the ship could not be easily broken, with this whip, Zhang Tai heard the jarring sound of twisting and squeezing iron and steel. At the same time, many buildings and facilities at the fore were broken by such an irresistible attack. Broken materials flew in all directions, causing many people to wail mournfully. Some unlucky guys were even broken into pieces by the whip. Although Zhang Tai was far away from that tentacle, he also suffered from the attack of some broken pieces flying towards him from the front. Thankfully, he dodged away from them. After the tentacle's attack, another huge tentacle stretched out of the starboard as it swept across the shipboard. As a result, another 5 or 6 onlookers were rolled up by the tentacle. With miserable shrieks, their skeletons were broken at the same time while their innards burst out. With fresh blood spraying in the air, they were pulled into the sea. At the sight of such a scene, many people who had just run out immediately turned around and rushed back in. They were outside here only to be the dim sum of the monster. By contrast, it was safer in the cabins. Even the thinnest part at the tip of the tentacle was wider than 1 m. It swept across a spot less than 10 m in front of Zhang Tai, breaking a row of windows on the left of the shipboard. After rolling up one person, the huge tentacle instantly made a knot over his body in less than 1 second, causing his eyes pop out of his face. Huge deep-sea monster, huge deep-sea monster. Someone shouted loudly on the deck above Zhang Tai when bolts were shot into the sea from huge steam-driven crossbows. Zhang Tai didn't know whether or not they had hit the huge monster with the bolts. The moment this question flashed across Zhang Tai's mind, a surging wave had risen into the sky suddenly while another huge tentacle several meters in width stretched out from the bottom of the ship. In a split second, Zhang Tai saw a steam-driven ballista, debris of buildings and more than 10 people were swept into the sea. Meanwhile, a loud sound and some shrill screams drifted from the starboard. The monster in the sea seemed having been irritated by the huge bolts. After rushing out of the passage after Zhang Tai, Sam and Jerry saw a tentacle as wide as several meters shrinking into the sea along with those pieces and people. Their faces turned pale at once. They then instantly turned around and escaped back towards their cabins as they realized that they were only targets by standing by the shipboard. Zhang Tai also prepared to run back into his own cabin. At the sight of it, Zhang Tai had realized that it was out of his ability to deal with this huge deep-sea monster. Although he kept moving towards the north in the sea, he had not seen such a terrifying monster before. Zhang Tai didn't think he was a righteous swordsman, neither did he think that he could save others at the risk of his own life. If that huge monster destroyed the ship, Zhang Tai could escape by himself. However, he didn't know how many people could he save. Thinking of this, Zhang Tai really heard help. A guy lying on the deck 7 to 8 m away from Zhang Tai was screaming miserably while a sharp metal strip penetrated his thigh, causing him to unable to move. Soon after his scream, another wide tentacle stretched out of the sea and swept over the deck like a mop that was used to clean the deck and the shipboard. As a result, with the cracking sound of metal, the metal guardrails of the shipboard and the deck rolled up like instant noodles. In a wink, that huge tentacle had been less than 10 m away from the person. That guy's face changed as he watched that terrifying black tentacle which rolled towards him like a tank with a despairing look. At this moment, Zhang Tai rushed towards the man. He caught his clothes and rolled into a cabin on one side before the tentacle reached them. After this round of attack, the door and the window of the cabin had been transformed and broken into pieces while one wall was cleaned. In the blink of an eye, the cabin had been destroyed as if it had been attacked by a tornado. The moment Zhang Tai stopped rolling, he saw another surging wave from outside the shipboard while another huge tentacle stretched out of the sea, twisting in the air, and was going to hack downwards. B*****. With a furious, grim voice, a blue sun appeared outside the cabin. Being stimulated by that brilliant, blue sword chi, Zhang Tai slightly narrowed his eyes. At the same time, Zhang Tai's heart palpitated while a powerful pressure rose from outside. This powerful pressure reminded Zhang Tai of a familiar sense. Zhang Tai then immediately remembered the scene when he met the senior from Huayuan Palace on the airship. However, this person's powerful pressure was different from that of the senior from Huayuan Palace. The latter's powerful pressure was as steady as Mount Tai while the prior's powerful pressure felt like being pricked by numerous sharp long swords. Knight. How come a knight on this ship? Zhang Tai was a bit shocked as he let out a sigh almost at the same time. Before that huge tentacle fell down onto the deck, it had become cut into pieces while its blood sprayed over the sky. Being influenced by this, the rest of the huge tentacles that were surrounding the polar light withdrew back into the sea, causing a 100 m high water column at once. Meanwhile, a baby's high-pitched baby crying drifted from below the sea. When that sound was produced, even Zhang Tai covered his ears with hands as he felt like vomiting. Eyes widely opened, Zhang Tai watched the man standing in the air being covered with blue sword chi. When the knight shot into the sea like a bolt, Zhang Tai also made a decision and rushed out of his cabin. Zhang Tai had never witnessed how a knight fought. As there was a chance, of course, Zhang Tai would not give it up. Zhang Tai directly came to the fore of the ship and looked at the sea. Huge tentacles stirred up the 100 m high water columns and surging waves, making the polar light bumpier. Among those water columns and surging waves, a huge black shadow which was 100 m in width was below the ship. At the sight of it, Zhang Tai felt chilly all over. In a split second, the blue sword chi had cut off the tentacles of over 100 m in length which stretched out of the sea like cutting melons and vegetables like lightning bolts. After dropping into the sea, the twisting, broken tentacles also caused high sprays and surging waves. As a result, Zhang Tai was soaking wet. At the same time, the monster uttered a shrill shriek. There was a steam-driven ballista at the fore of the ship. Whereas, the sailor of this steam-driven ballista had already been hacked away by one tentacle. At this moment, when the blue sword chi was fighting the monster, Zhang Tai noticed that nobody was manipulating the ballista, therefore, he immediately ran towards it. After rapidly checking the steam-driven ballista, Zhang Tai found that only the defensive armor plate of the steam-driven ballista was dented and twisted. The whole ballista was still in good condition. The steam pressure of the ballista was normal while a 2 m long triangular crossbow had been in place. The ballista was ready for launch at any time. Without saying anything, Zhang Tai instantly sat in the seat of the gunner. At the same time, Zhang Tai forcefully rocked the steering driving wheel and aimed at that monster. At the same time, he held the hammer and prepared to trigger the bolt. Narrowing his eyes, Zhang Tai adjusted his shooting angle along with the rocking ship. Through the reticle window of the ballista, Zhang Tai observed the fight as he waited for the right chance. Soon the chance arrived. Only after 1 minute, when the monster lost 2 tentacles, the seawater where it stayed instantly became as pitch dark as ink. You want to escape? Go die. With a loud reproach, he hacked a crescent brilliance higher than 20 m into the sea. In a split second, the seawater was frozen. Being split by that crescent brilliance, a 100 m long and deep vacuum groove was produced in the pitch-dark water while a hill-like ferocious head of the monster was seen above the water. Before being shocked by that night's great strength, Zhang Tai had already stricken onto the trigger key with his right hand. With a quake, a 2 m long huge bolt was sent flying towards the head of that monster from the ballista along the vacuum groove. When the crescent brilliance struck its head, the bolt also entered the monster's head. Zhang Tai didn't know about the result, he only felt that his huge bolt directly entered the huge wound on the monster's head which was caused by that crescent brilliance. After that, the seawater refilled the groove. Besides constant wind and waves, everything became quiet again. After the blue sword chi disappeared, the person was standing still in the air above the sea where he had fought the monster. Dozens of seconds later, an owl-sized body floated above the water while its lifeless tentacles started to bump over the sea. It was 20 m higher above the sea although it was only a small part of its body. The man standing in the air then flew back to the fore. After lowering his head and glancing at Zhang Tai, he didn't say anything. Instead, he walked towards the top deck where the VIP zone of the polar light was located. Watching that man's back, Zhang Tai found he was an old man whose age was unidentified. That man looked like a bit older than 50 years old. However, he had no wrinkles. He also looked like he was 70 to 80 years old as he seemed to have experienced a lot. Besides well-combed silver-gray hair, his silver-gray pupils could bring a great pressure to people. Additionally, he had a raised forehead and a tall figure with a long sword in a sheath hung on his waist. All this radiated a great and sharp power. When Zhang Tai recalled that old man's strike with his crescent sword chi which had even split the seawater and reached 100 m under the water, Zhang Tai felt that he was in a dream. If he stood in front of such a powerful person, the strike would have destroyed Zhang Tai 100 times. Is this the fighting strength of a knight? Zhang Tai watched the old man's back with an admirable look. He didn't know when he would have such a powerful fighting strength. With only one strike, even gods and monsters would run over 100 m away. Star and Moon Sword Sage. Is that Samaraj, the Star and Moon Sword Sage? Someone shouted on the top deck. Samaraj, Star and Moon Sword Sage. Zhang Tai remembered this name. At this moment, Polar Light had already anchored. The moment the crisis was solved, all the others staying in their cabins had run out while the sailors and seamen on the ship started to clean and repair the ship. At the sight of the dead body of the terrifying deep-sea huge monster and the damaged parts of the ship, they were all struck dumb with astonishment. The whole fighting process lasted only 3 to 4 minutes from the deep-sea huge monster's appearance to its death. However, within such a short period, many people on the ship had experienced life or death situations. From the hill-like part above the sea, Zhang Tai thought it was a mutated and evolved huge cuttlefish after observing it for a short while. Zhang Tai then left the fore. Castle Lord, could you please collect a bit of its flesh? Just a finger-sized piece of it is enough. A familiar voice sounded in Zhang Tai's mind directly. It was Heller, the steward of Castle of Black Iron. Zhang Tai was not used to talk with Heller in this way. Is that you, Heller? Zhang Tai asked in mind. Yes, it's me, Castle Lord, I'm talking with you through the teleportation door of Castle of Black Iron. In this way, nobody could hear our conversation except for you. With increasing spiritual energy, you will get used to this way of communication. If you increase your spiritual energy a bit more, you will be able to talk with me directly without having to enter Castle of Black Iron. Hearing this explanation, Zhang Tai was reassured. What will you use it for? I will explain it to you when you come back. As the flesh of the huge deep-sea monster contains its mutated and evolved gene, which is very valuable. This might be useful to Castle Lord. The gene can only survive for several hours after. Therefore, you have to send it into Castle of Black Iron before it loses its activity. When the Star and Moon Sword Sage destroyed a tentacle of the deep-sea monster, he cut it into many pieces which scattered everywhere on the ship. Therefore, on his way back into his cabin, Zhang Tai casually picked up a piece of glutinous flesh which was as size as half a fist and teleported it into castle of black iron by putting it into his pocket. Chapter 396, A Forgotten Option. Peter. When Zhang Tai walked across the messy area intending to check the wounds of the guy whom he had saved, he caught sight of Sam and Jerry. At the same time, Sam and Jerry also saw Zhang Tai. With a scream, Sam then walked towards him with Jerry. "It's great to know that you're safe." Sam revealed a big smile. However, he also felt a bit embarrassed as he scratched his head. "When we came out just now, we saw the monster's tentacle right in front of us, so. Zhang Tai then smiled as he patted Sam's shoulder. "I know, it's okay, I was also out there to watch the fight instead of fighting the monster. Therefore, I didn't need your help as I could simply dodge the monster's attacks." Hearing Zhang Tai's reply, Sam and Jerry both let out a sigh. No matter what, although Zhang Tai ran out himself, it was not a righteous deed for them to turn around and escape. "Oh, where's the monster?" Jerry looked around out of curiosity. Zhang Tai then pointed at the four. Standing beside the guardrail of a destroyed shipboard, Jerry then pulled a fixed item as he looked outside before he screamed. At this moment, more and more people poured out of their cabins and started to look out of the shipboard. At the sight of the dead body of that huge deep-sea monster, they all screamed one after the other. Someone picked up its broken tentacles and watched them carefully. Seeing Sam and Jerry being that curious, Zhang Tai didn't talk with them too much. "Enjoy yourself, I've got something to deal with. See you later." "Arg, okay." Saying this, Jerry then ran towards the four while pulling Sam's arm. Zhang Tai then came to the position where the man he had saved was. Although this area had been completely destroyed, the man could already stand up reluctantly while a sailor and a doctor were dealing with his wounds. At the sight of Zhang Tai, the man immediately struggled to hold Zhang Tai's arm in an excited manner as he shouted, that's him, this young man saved my life. If he wasn't here in time, I would have been smashed to pieces." Hearing his voice, all the people in the destroyed cabin glanced at Zhang Tai, including that sailor and that doctor who were tending to his wounds. Although saying nothing, they all looked at him with admiration. What Zhang Tai did at the critical moment was so noble and brave that everybody would praise him if they knew. Hearing this praise, Zhang Tai felt a bit shameful. Although it was critical at that moment, before action, Zhang Tai had calculated the movement speeds of himself and the monster's tentacle. After knowing that he would not encounter any danger, he directly rushed towards the man and saved him. Therefore, although it looked very risky in others' eyes, Zhang Tai felt being safe. However, it was unnecessary for Zhang Tai to clarify this to the public. Although he was not a righteous swordsman who especially did good things for the benefit of the average people, he wasn't an idiot either. Additionally, he had truly saved the man's life. "Arg, I'm just here to take a look. It's good to know you're safe. Young man, do you know that you've just saved the life of Jelimov? May I know your name?" That man being saved by Zhang Tai asked solemnly. "You can call me Peter." Hearing Zhang Tai's reply, Jelimov instantly opened the collar of his coat. After that, he undid that heavy gold necklace and gave it to Zhang Tai. "If encounter any difficulty in the ice and snow wilderness, remember to find me in Bearman's Inn of Askau City. If I've already died, go to my sons, if my sons have died, go to my grandsons. I will tell them that anyone who presents this gold necklace is the savior of my family. I'm sure that they will exert their utmost efforts to help you." That man was so sincere that even Zhang Tai felt reluctant to refuse his good intentions. After glancing at that gold necklace with a bare head which was almost as heavy as 0.5 kilograms, Zhang Tai directly took it. "I'll remember it. Bearman's Inn of Askau City. If I meet any difficulty, I will come for your help." Hearing Zhang Tai's words, the man burst into waves of laughter. Because of the huge deep-sea monster's attack, the polar light anchored on the sea. At this moment, the sailors were all busy repairing the damaged parts of the ship and treating the wounded. As the huge deep-sea monster only attacked them for a few seconds, Only the exterior structures and the upper structure, which was close to the shipboard, were damaged. Therefore, after several hours' maintenance, all the passengers were told that they only needed to wait for one night before moving ahead. Hearing this, all the passengers recovered their composures, especially when everybody was told that Samaranth, the star and moon sword sage, was also on board. They finally felt reassured. Besides damaging a part of the hull, the huge deep-sea monster also caused high casualties. Over 70 people were killed or injured. Additionally, 20 more people were missing. Everybody knew that the alleged disappeared was just a euphemistic way of speaking. Being attacked by that monster, they must have entered its stomachy or have dropped into the sea and would not come back. Those who lost their friends or relatives were extremely grieved at this moment. In contrast, all those surviving the attack changed the tragedy into a comedy. After being told that Samaranth, the star and moon sword sage, was also on the ship, some passengers who thought they were influential then queued up in the VIP area. They wanted to appreciate this legendary figure and dreamed to befriend him. In contrast, more average passengers, especially those who lived in economical and average cabins, were queuing up at the fore. They were taking photos together with that floating dead body of the huge deep-sea monster on the sea. As a result, the price of a photo soon rose to 30 silver coins from 15 silver coins. Even then, there were many people still excited about taking photos. The photographer on the ship then benefited the most from this event. Sam and Jerry were also posing a charming gesture at the fore. Not until Zhang Tai, Sam and Jerry finished taking their photo did Zhang Tai see Isle, the one living next to him, coming back from the gambling house of the Polar Light. What made them speechless was that all didn't even know what happened till now. When being asked why the Polar Light anchored, Sam widened his eyes at once. "You don't know what happened? I truly heard warnings in the gambling house, but nobody cared about that as we were so immersive. Additionally, those guys in the gambling house told us to not go out until the ship sank." "What? Did it run on rocks or an iceberg?" the small furrier asked out of curiosity. Jerry told all what happened briefly. Hearing that, Al widely opened his mouth before running out. After a short while, he ran back with a pitiful look. What a pity! Such a huge body would contain tens of thousands tons of flesh. Being similar to that of octopus, its flesh is very good food. Additionally, as the price of food on the continent grows day by day, if we could process this flesh into canned fish or store them, we would make a lot. When food is insufficient, we could even save a lot of people using its flesh. Hearing this, Sam and Jerry both felt pitiful while an idea appeared in Zhang Tai's mind. Although it was already dark, the clamor caused by the dead monster still didn't fade away. After ensuring that he would not be disturbed by anyone else, Zhang Tai returned to his narrow average cabin. He then closed the steel hatch door before entering the castle of black iron. As it was already dark outside, the castle of black iron also became dark inside. Some torches were burning around the small tree and the houses. The torches were not too dazzling but could illuminate the surroundings. Heller had long waited for Zhang Tai's arrival respectfully. As per usual, the three coolies would go to bed the moment the night fell and got up to work the moment the sun rose. "Castle Lord, welcome to the castle of black iron." Heller bowed elegantly. "Good work." Zhang Tai nodded. "I know Castle Lord has a lot of questions to ask. Let's talk about them in the house." Heller stretched out his hand to invite Zhang Tai in. "Fine." Zhang Tai directly followed Heller in the only double-story log cabin. The parlor had been furnished. However, compared to that of Jinwu Castle, this was only a clean place which was suitable for deliberation. A plate of strawberries and a plate of other berries were placed on the desk. At the sight of them, Zhang Tai realized that the castle of black iron could provide him more and more materials now. "Tell me about the function of the flesh of that huge deep-sea monster." Throwing himself onto a chair beside the desk, Zhang Tai grabbed 2 scarlet strawberries and threw them into his mouth. Tasting the refreshing and sweet strawberries, Zhang Tai instantly felt pretty good all over. Hearing this question, Heller only replied with a smile as he put his hands in the air and separated them in a cool manner. Then, Zhang Tai saw a menu in the air. Basic attributes of Castle of Black Iron. Space and terrain transformation. Living beings and species administration. Forming special seeds and fruits of Manjasaka Karma fruit tree. This was the main menu of the Castle of Black Iron. Have you remembered that? Heller smiled as he watched Zhang Tai. He then moved one hand up in the air, causing the top 3 lines gradually fade away, leaving the last option that Zhang Tai had not used before. Forming special seeds and fruits of Manjasaka Karma fruit tree. Chapter 397, Flower of Life. Gazing at the last option for a while, Zhang Tai realized that he hadn't touched it for over a year. After skimming over this option when he obtained the Castle of Black Iron at the beginning, which almost made him suffer from a heart attack due to excitement, Zhang Tai had not checked this option at all. Zhang Tai could still remember the astronomical figures of basic energy storage, merit values and aura values required by those special seeds and fruits. Am I able to grow some special seeds and fruits now? Zhang Tai asked. The wealth accumulated in Castle of Black Iron has been able to grow a few special seeds on the small tree. Heller confirmed. Why not give it a look? Of course, Zhang Tai knew what the word wealth meant coming from Heller's mouth. It actually referred to those basic data. Zhang Tai then pressed the last option in the air before seeing a wholly new interface. Being the same as the first time Zhang Tai opened the option, there were various rotating 3-dimensional patterns and descriptions of strange seeds and fruits on the interface. The only difference was that a few of those patterns were bright as they were activated. Heller then pointed at one of those activated seeds. Zhang Tai then touched its pattern. In a split second, its 3-dimensional pattern became enlarged and clearer. Seed of Flower of Life. Aura values, 530000. Basic energy storage, 1358000. Merit values, 90,000. Planting area for LV1 Flower of Life, a square with a side length of 66 m. Flower of Secret, also the Flower of Taboo, which was usually mentioned by some human clans. It figured out the fundamental secrets of the existence of life. With one bioactive cell, the Flower of Life could clone another living being. The seed of this Flower of Life required astronomical amounts of aura values, basic energy storage and merit values which were out of Zhang Tai's imagination. What's clone? Zhang Tai asked Heller. Simply put, a clone is a duplicate of another living being. Duplicate a life? Zhang Tai was shocked by this answer greatly. That's it. It could duplicate a new life, including flesh and blood. If you have learned a lot about the scientific development of mankind before the catastrophe, you would know that people have already mastered the technology of cloning technique before the catastrophe. It's one of the most high-end techniques that people have mastered during that age. What do you mean by taboo? With only one drop of your blood, the Flower of Life will clone a person who looks the same as you, including all the physical features and genes. If so, can your parents identify which one of you was the original if the both of you stood in front of them at the same time? Of course I'm the real one. Yes, you are the real one. But who will be the one who looks the same as you? From bloodline, as he originates from you, he also originates from your parents. Zhang Tai was then confused. As this technique would bring a huge impact to human ethics, it has been treated as a taboo. Actually, for many human races and living beings in the universe, they could not accept this. Wait, you mean a few races and living beings didn't think it was unacceptable? Don't they treat this as a taboo? Zhang Tai figured out something from Heller's words. The reason lies in the difference in understanding the essence of life among different races and living beings. If you think that this body which contains various elements, blood and fleshes is all of you, you will then take the cloning technique as a taboo. Whereas, if you take this body as a garment, will you treat those people who wear the same garment as you on the streets as taboo? Heller said meaningfully. You mean it's nothing to worry about that? I've told you that this depends on your understanding of life. If this body is all of you, then, will you think that you are different from those people with incomplete bodies essentially? When you see them wearing ragged clothes, do you think they are still the same as you? If this body is all of you, then, who's the one in the trouble reappearance fruits? Is that just your illusion and conscious activity? Heller stared at Zhang Tai, who was slightly frowning his forehead. Don't worry about that anymore. Everything in Castle of Black Iron now exists for you. You are the absolute ruler here. Therefore, you don't need to change your world outlook to adapt to the things here. On the contrary, they will adapt to your existence and viewpoint. If you feel that you could hardly accept them, you can't choose them. If you feel it is nothing different than a garment worship, it is a garment workshop. After thinking for a short while, Zhang Tai ridiculed it. What a bullshit tea taboo. I've not planned to do anything weird with it at all. I'd better consider something more realistic. Therefore, you asked me to bring in a piece of flesh of that huge deep-sea monster? Yes. That powerful mutated living being is very valuable. If you can afford it, with the help of the flower of life, you could constantly produce huge deep-sea monsters in the Castle of Black Iron. I don't think it is very powerful at all. The Star and Moon Sword Sage killed it in only a few minutes. Additionally, what do I need that disgusting thing for? Zhang Tai crooked his mouth. Based on my analysis of that piece of flesh, I find that the huge deep-sea monster was going through puberty. Such a creature has a great potential for growth. If it was an adult monster, it would be at least twice the size of the one you saw. If so, it would not be killed by people so easily, as an adult deep-sea monster is one of the most powerful lords in the sea. What's more, as these cloned creatures sustain their lives by consuming your resources, they will be closely related to you and treat you as their owner. You mean I can treat these cloned things as my pets? As you will, they will definitely be much more docile than average pets. Heller confirmed. Hearing this, Zhang Tai's heart raced. With his eyes fixed onto that seed of flower of life, Zhang Tai suddenly thought of something. You mean people have already mastered cloning technique before the catastrophe? Is this flower the product of human science at that age? Heller replied with a smile. Besides the human race, there were numerous living beings and species in the universe. The flower of life is just a living being. Humans always dreamt of conquering the whole world with high-end science. Did you ever imagine that some other races and living beings could conquer everything by planting various plants? Those plants were born to have all the functions required by the human race, which were more senior than the top achievements of human science. That's unbelievable. Fishes are born to swim and dive. However, how many difficulties have humans experienced diving deep into the sea? Birds are born to fly. However, how long had humans spent before being able to fly in the air? Treatment of water and soil pollution was a hot topic of human society even till the catastrophe. However, many plants are born to be able to purify water and revitalize the soil, which is much more powerful than human scientific civilization. Humans are always dreaming about eternal prosperity through sunlight. However, plants are born with that ability. When did humans start transmitting messages through electromagnetic signals? All the plants in a forest naturally have the ability to transmit threatening warnings of invaders thousands of kilometers away through electromagnetic signals in a second. Receiving their signals, their partners would respond to it as soon as possible. Do you feel their instincts are strange? Do you feel that human civilization before the catastrophe is really that powerful? Living beings are born to have various strange instincts. Now that plants are born to have unimaginable super instincts, how could there not be a plant that could accomplish duplication and clone of life? Hearing Heller's words, Zhang Tai touched his head. This steward not only dwarfs me in looks but also has excellent eloquence and wisdom. Compared to Heller, Zhang Tai found that he was totally an innocent kid. Wait. Zhang Tai suddenly recalled that in many Chinese myths and legends, many people and living beings were bred in flowers. Are those myths and legends real? Zhang Tai then told Heller about these myths and legends. Human myths and legends contain many memories and knowledge from far ancient times. Of course, many of them were fully fabricated by descendants based on their imaginations. As for the myths and legends that you mentioned before, I could only tell you that some of the Chinese might have a flower of life on this star a long time ago. Heller explained to Zhang Tai seriously. What? You mean there's another castle of black iron? Zhang Tai was slightly stunned. There is only one castle of black iron. But the flower of life is only a single member of a huge special plant population. Why could the small tree bear the seeds and fruits of the flower of life? Because the Manjusaka karma fruit tree is the king of that huge special plant population, which carries the life potentials of all the members of this population. When the conditions became mature, the Manjusaka would release all the life potentials of those members. This is its fate and instinct. You can also take the flower of life as a subordinate of the Manjusaka karma fruit tree. You mean the option forming special seeds and fruits of Manjusaka karma fruit tree is essentially the reproductive channel through which the small tree releases the life potentials of that huge special plant population? Zhang Tai widened his eyes. You can take it as a contract or an appointment, based on which, you bring them into this world through your own efforts and they serve you as a payment instinctively. The most perfect and harmonious relationship in the universe is established on this reciprocity, cooperation, and interdependence. Heller confirmed. You mean, this space of the castle of black iron might be a big botanical garden at the beginning which would bring various subordinate strange flowers and plants to that small tree while I am that diligent gardener who's selected to look after this botanical garden? Zhang Tai pointed at his own nose. I don't think you are wrong. Because I'm also a subordinate of this space, I could only tell you that as I've told you, the most perfect and harmonious relationship in the universe is established on this reciprocity, cooperation, and interdependence. The fundamental rule in the universe is that one party could not casually determine the life or death of the other party, casually harm the other party or pay with no gain, which is applicable anywhere, especially in people's social life. Any relationship that violates this fundamental principle can't be sustained. However, relationships that violate this principle exist everywhere, like friends that become enemies, regime changes, and the changing relationships between nations. After saying this, Heller asked Zhang Tai, do you think that mysterious existence who created the castle of black iron has not considered this simple thing? Zhang Tai was numb. Chapter 398, Making Progress. Of course, the powerful flower of life which could clone a new living being was very useful for Zhang Tai. With the genes of huge deep-sea monster, the moment he realized that he could have such an assistant in the sea, Zhang Tai was very excited. Certainly, the flower of life's ability was limited. In order to clone a living being, the flower of life could only clone one time with one gene, although it required an astronomical amount of basic energy storage, aura values, and merit values. Being similar to most plants, it would not produce two flowers that were the exact same. The creature produced by the flower of life was also unique. Therefore, with the gene of the deep-sea monster, Zhang Tai could only clone one huge deep-sea monster. If he wanted more, he had to obtain the genes of other huge deep-sea monsters. However, Zhang Tai was already very satisfied with this. To produce a seed of the flower of life, you need 53,000 aura values, 135,8000 basic energy storage and 90,000 merit values. Do you agree to produce the seed of the flower of life on Manjusaka karma fruit tree or not? Yes or no? After seeing the familiar words once again, Zhang Tai instantly chose yes. The moment he touched the button, Zhang Tai felt that the small tree started to radiate a faint but colorful light that covered its leaves. Meanwhile, the small tree's leaves slightly shook and uttered the sound of ring ring ring, which was pleasing to Zhang Tai's ears. Zhang Tai felt that the small tree was very happy at this moment. Zhang Tai knew that plants had emotional responses. It was said that the human race gained inspiration from plants' emotional responses while studying lie detectors. It was really out of his imagination that this small tree's emotional response could be that intense. Feeling that the small tree was happy, Zhang Tai also became happy himself. In the past year, Zhang Tai had picked off so many fruits from it, yet, he didn't give anything to the small tree at all. Realizing that the small tree was very pleased with his choice, Zhang Tai was secretly overjoyed. Although Zhang Tai input the largest amount of basic energy storage, merit values and aura values in producing the seed of flower of life he had ever saved up in the past year, he felt it worthwhile. Perhaps in others' eyes, this was just a marvelous tree, however, for Zhang Tai, the small tree was his best friend and close partner as it had accompanied him throughout his growth. How long will it take the small tree to create the seed of flower of life? Zhang Tai asked Heller. Enjoying the sound of the small tree, Heller closed his eyes until he heard Zhang Tai's question. It would take the Manjusaka karma fruit tree 1 hour and 40 minutes to breed a seed of flower of life. It's a seed, a fruit, and the first subordinate of Manjusaka karma fruit tree. Oh, what's the name of that strange plant species that the flower of life belongs to? You are familiar with it as you even registered your exclusive label with it. Heller looked serious. You mean that strange plant species is called Manjusaka? Zhang Tai widened his eyes. Heller then nodded, you got it. It is. But isn't it a strange flower of legend? The Manjusaka flower truly exists, as it is also a member of the strange plant species known as Manjusaka karma. Just like the flower of life, the Manjusaka flower is born to enable people to seal their memories or memorize what happened. It could enable you to forget your sadness and comfort you. If Zhang Tai was told this by others, he probably wouldn't believe him. But since it was told by Heller, Zhang Tai believed it deeply. Before the small tree bred its fruit, Zhang Tai checked his accumulated resources in the Castle of Black Iron by touching the Basic Attributes panel. Castle of Black Iron. Length, 1 Crusoe. Width, 1 Crusoe. Aura values, 111598. Merit values, 45127. Basic energy storage, 1529100. Special output, basic Reiki yeast. Only a few aura values were left while only 1/3 of merit values were left. What made Zhang Tai a bit reassured was the basic energy storage. After consuming 1358000 values of basic energy storage, there were still more than a half left in the Castle of Black Iron. This indicated Zhang Tai's fruitful achievement when he traveled in the sea for consecutive 3 days. During the 3 days, Zhang Tai's basic energy storage surged 3 times. This also indicated indirectly that all the payment was valuable. After checking these items, Zhang Tai checked the logs of merit values. He found that the merit values during this period mainly came from those sand scale fish that he employed people on Hidden Dragon Island to set free. Nowadays, the slave responsible for setting free sand scale fish on Hidden Dragon Island was Paul, the alternate muling of the Sun Dynasty whom Zhang Tai bought from Star's Viewing City. Without explanation, Zhang Tai just told Paul to buy some sand scale fish from the fish market on the wharf of Hidden Dragon Island before pouring them into the sea. Although Zhang Tai left Hidden Dragon Island, he didn't arrange anyone to supervise Paul's work every day. However, Zhang Tai could see Paul's work every day in the Castle of Black Iron. If Paul set free sand-scale fish, Zhang Tai's merit values would increase on the same day. As it was Zhang Tai who spent money and employed people to set free the sand-scale fish, the merit values all belonged to Zhang Tai, like how he arranged people to set free earthworms in Blapei. By the way, Zhang Tai would like to test whether that person is reliable in an unconstrained environment. If that person could finish this job very meticulously even in such a scenario, it indicated that he was valuable. As was appointed between Zhang Tai and him, if that person could show his value to Zhang Tai, he will get Zhang Tai's support for his revenge plan. The latest 2,000 merit values came from Glomoff, whom Zhang Tai had just saved from the terrifying tentacle of that huge deep-sea monster. As an old Chinese saying went, to save a person is better than building a 7-story pagoda. 1. The small tree was still gleaming while playing a nice score of music with its shaking leaves. Zhang Tai then left the house together with Heller and walked towards the small tree. It would take some time for the seed of flower of life to come into being. Zhang Tai then planned to eat fruits during this period. Before eating fruits, Zhang Tai walked around the small tree. When he caught sight of the trouble reappearance fruit, Zhang Tai threw his glance at Heller. Of course, Heller knew what Zhang Tai wanted to know. Right, this trouble reappearance fruit contains the scene where Castle Lord fought that huge deep-sea monster. The very living being that could be activated inside is the huge deep-sea monster. You've had good fortune today. Closely after Star and Moon Sword Sage opened its head, your bolt directly penetrated through that wound on the monster's head and gave it a fatal strike. Without your strike, that huge deep-sea monster could still stand for 2 minutes before dying. Ha, ha. Zhang Tai became excited as he burst out laughing. What a fortune! He only thought about sealing the huge deep-sea monster in the trouble reappearance fruit at that time. He hadn't imagined that he was that lucky and had really made it. Zhang Tai could not obtain such a precious chance to fight a huge deep-sea monster at sea anymore, no matter how much he spent. Although Zhang Tai knew that he had rare chance to fight the huge deep-sea monster with his current ability, he still wanted to strengthen his swimming and fighting skills through fighting such an unrivaled opponent. Additionally, after killing that huge deep-sea monster, he saw a huge passenger liner in the trouble reappearance scene. With this super great toy, Zhang Tai could really enjoy himself. Zhang Tai was thinking about removing the huge deep-sea monster and replacing it with some sea serpents. Zhang Tai felt that it was his lucky day, as so many achievements were waiting to place themselves before him. He then constantly digested 4 fruits under the small tree. Being affected by the 2 leakless fruits, the 16th surging point gradually turned from red to blue. With 2 barriers left, it would be ignited. After eating the new trouble reappearance fruit, Zhang Tai gained a new scene and an unrivaled opponent. After eating that fruit of redemption, gratitude from sandscale fish, Zhang Tai's sensitivity to cold and water flows rose by 8.7% respectively, which was over 12 times greater than that of commoners respectively. This made Zhang Tai more curious. After setting free earthworms, he gained the preliminary recovery body. Zhang Tai really wanted to discover how his body had evolved after setting free so many sandscale fish. After eating 4 fruits, Zhang Tai went off the stages from that high platform where the small tree was while Heller was waiting for him to the side. The fruit of flower of life was still hanging over the small tree. It seemed to be growing fast while the small tree was still gleaming with swaying leaves. How long has it been? It only took Castle Lord 1 hour and 20 minutes to digest the 4 fruits. 20 minutes are left before the fruit of the flower of life grows ripe. Heller watched that latest fruit with an eager look. Zhang Tai then recalled a question that he had considered outside the castle of black iron just now. Do we have a place to store food in here? Yes, we have. But it's almost fully loaded. I'm thinking about having Aegon to build another warehouse to store food these days. The daily grain supply in Castle of Black Iron could support the daily demands of 100. We need to solve the problem of lack of laborers and arable land. That huge deep-sea monster is still floating at sea. What a huge piece of flesh. Its body weighed at least thousands of tons. I was told that its flesh was a top food material. It would be a great waste to leave it floating at sea in this way. Do you have any method to deal with it? Zhang Tai asked this purely out of his sense of crisis. Zhang Tai knew that when the Holy War broke out in the future, food would be in urgent demand. Since the event in Heaven's Cold City, the prices of grains across Wei subcontinent had been surging rapidly. Everybody had a sense of urgency as they increased their stockpiles. Now that Zhang Tai knew that food would be very scarce in the future, he would feel uncomfortable by just leaving it flowing away at sea based on his personality. Given Zhang Tai's family background in Black Hot City, he would definitely treat it as a great waste if he just watched such a big piece of flesh floated away. You want to bring the flesh of huge deep-sea monster inside? Heller narrowed his eyes. From his look, Heller seemed to be interested in Zhang Tai's thought. Right. If it was on land, I might not able to bring it inside, but, as it is at sea, I could bring it in. However, the problem is how to store them? Zhang Tai scratched his head. If we just put it in Castle of Black Iron, it would go bad in only a couple of days. I don't think it would definitely go bad in Castle of Black Iron. Have you forgotten about the space and topographical transformation function? Being reminded, Zhang Tai instantly thought up something as he looked at Heller in surprise. You mean? We can enlarge the northern area of Castle of Black Iron. Why not directly create a huge ice cave underground to store those flesh? Additionally, reproduction and growth of microbes and bacteria which can cause food go bad will be restrained in the icy cave. In this way, we can store the flesh underground as long as possible. Hearing this, Zhang Tai directly jumped up from the ground. You will be responsible for building an underground ice cave and breeding the flower of life. For the ice cave, the larger, the better. I have to go out to get the flesh back now. After saying that, Zhang Tai left the castle of black iron immediately. 1. Pagoda is a kind of Buddhism tower. Chapter 399, Collect the Booty. In the evening, the wind grew heavier with the surging waves. It became colder outside. Sailors were busy repairing the damaged facilities. As the greater part of the metal guardrail on the left shipboard of Zhang Tai's floor had been destroyed, sailors were knotting nets with ropes in case that someone fell into the sea. Given the low temperature of the sea in the Oro Strait, if commoners were to fall in, even if they could swim, they would be freeze to death in only 5 minutes. After being anchored, the polar light was bumpier than when it was in motion. Therefore, sailors were very careful on deck. Tonight, the stars were sparse while it was pitch dark over the sea. The fluorescent lamps hanging on the shipboards could only illuminate the area within 10 odd meters. The surging waves were blocking people's vision like the rising and falling of large black mountains. Certainly, darkness only affected commoners. For Zhang Tai, after activating his night vision, he found nothing different between the day and night. The only difference was one layer of golden light when he activated his dark vision. Now, Zhang Tai could not see the dead body of the huge deep-sea monster and its 100 long tentacles that were floating not too far from polar light several hours ago. Due to the heavy northeast wind and the surging waves, it had been blown away. Zhang Tai came downstairs to the bottom deck from the left side of the top deck. At this moment, a manager was surrounded by 50 to 60 infuriated passengers at the entrance of the bottom deck. It took Zhang Tai a lot of effort to push through the crowd. It was really noisy over there. Many people were screaming loudly while some were weeping. I'll say it again. No insurance service is provided for any ship that heading for the ice and snow wilderness from St. Helena Island. No business group or insurance company would be able to guarantee the safety of ships and passengers on this most dangerous route. This custom remains unchanged for hundreds of years. For those passengers who were killed, we can only give our condolences. We can't compensate them anything they've encountered. Your shipping tickets don't include insurance fee. You can see it at the ticketing center. The manager was explaining loudly, which was soon drowned by furious voices. Zhang Tai could not give any help to the relatives and friends of those victims, neither was it related to him. Therefore, he just kept walking downstairs. Those above floor 3 were common cabins while those below floor 3 were economy-class cabins and cargo cabins. The hull below floor 3 was also attacked by the huge deep-sea monster. Thankfully, the damage wasn't as severe as that above floor 3. It was the same as above. The bottom area was also very noisy. A great number of sailors were gathering in the center of the ship as they were pulling up a 50 long tentacle by tower cranes, steel ropes, and pulley blocks. Among those tentacles, this one was the shortest as it was only half of its full length, even though Zhang Tai found that it still weighed over 100 tons. Many people living in economy-class cabins were watching them work. Some even gave them a hand. Therefore, over 100 people were busy working over there. A fat man in a chief's uniform was commanding them. Take care, guys. The huge deep-sea monster's flesh is a top seafood ingredient. It's much more delicious than any octopus you've ever eaten. Those rich people prefer to spend much money on this. What a pity. Our ship is already at full capacity. Even if it wasn't, it would go bad in a couple of days on this ship. If we can move its body back, we will be rich. Chief Hagel. Is the flesh of this huge deep-sea monster really as delicious as you've said? A sailor asked loudly. Of course. The fat chief said proudly. Although its tentacle is sturdy, it tastes as tender and fresh as a sea cucumber. Additionally, the flesh of this huge deep-sea monster is high in nutritional value. Additionally, its chi and blood are very beneficial to people's health. If one always eat the flesh of huge deep-sea monster, one could be very robust. I was told that some powerhouses in Slav tribes like Mr. Samaranth would regularly hunt for huge deep-sea monsters and cultivate powerful fighters with the flesh of huge deep-sea monsters. Haha, we will have yummy food. Come on, boys. I will show you my skills on roasting sea monster, trust me, you will bite off your tongues. The chief waved his hands. Hearing this, all the sailors cheered up and started to work harder. Hearing Hagel's words, Zhang Tai made up his mind. If he just let the food float away in front of him, it was no different than committing a crime. The engine room was under the deck at the stern of the Polar Light. It was so noisy inside the room while the air was filled with stimulating smell of turpentine. Therefore, few people would usually come here, especially in the evening. There were only 2 dim fluorescent lamps at the stern, which reluctantly illuminated a small piece of area, leaving the surroundings shrouded in darkness. Almost no one was close to the deck and shipboards at the stern. Surging waves collided against the stern as sprays flew over the shipboards and fell onto the deck. Zhang Tai came to the stern. After checking that nobody was there, he directly jumped into the sea without making a sound. The moment Zhang Tai dived into the sea, he had activated a rune of the rapid-moving skill. Meanwhile, he felt an undercurrent being pushed by the powerful north wind. In a small range, when the undercurrent flew southwards, some other undercurrents were flowing oppositely as compensation. Although it was an interesting circulation of water flow in such a small range, Zhang Tai knew that in a wider range, being opposite to the most famous flow driven by north wind was an ocean current that moved northwards. The ocean currents here also formed a system. Under big ocean currents, there were medium-sized ocean currents, under these there were also small undercurrents. Under small undercurrents, there were smaller ones. Although of different sizes, these ocean currents formed an organic entity as they were linked with each other. Additionally, they had the same structure. Ocean currents that lasted thousands of miles and small undercurrents behind Zhang Tai both presented the same feature. The huge deep-sea monster was a territorial creature. Generally, no other sharp monster would be seen within hundreds of miles from a huge deep-sea monster. Therefore, Zhang Tai was brave enough to dive in the sea at this moment. Although Zhang Tai was very confident about his great swimming speed in the sea and didn't think it was possible to see any sea monster swimming faster than him, he didn't know what surprise this mysterious ocean would bring him. Perhaps, this monster was a male while there was a female near it. Zhang Tai really didn't want to meet another huge deep-sea monster. With this thought, Zhang Tai became alert as he started to look for the dead deep-sea monster. He started from the stern and searched towards the south in the shape of a Z. Based on his intuition, Zhang Tai judged that the dead body was at most dozens of miles away at this moment. Additionally, the huge deep-sea monster and its tentacles were so great in size and length. If Zhang Tai kept searching towards the south along the wind and ocean current, he definitely wouldn't miss it. Zhang Tai moved very fast. After leaving the Polar Light for several minutes, he had already been moving as fast as when he traveled in the sea several days ago. After eating a lot of fruits, his endurance had increased a bit. Gradually, Zhang Tai's moving speed exceeded the maximum that he reached several days ago. Zhang Tai felt like he was driving a supercar in the sea while his body was that supercar. Similarly, the size of the sea flow that he absorbed into Castle of Black Iron with his spiritual energy was like an accelerator. It felt pretty cool. Additionally, with the help of his night vision, he could see this colorful underwater world. The whole ocean was golden while various fishes and shrimps and other marine life passed by him. Although there were heavy winds and surging waves over the sea, it was relatively peaceful underwater. Only after swimming a couple of minutes in the sea, Zhang Tai had already heard Heller's voice in his mind. Space and topographical transformation of Castle of Black Iron is completed. After using up the basic energy storage, merit values and aura values of Castle of Black Iron, Heller had already built an ice cave which was about 600 m in length and over 100 m in width and height. Because this ice cave was purely for storing food, Heller adopted regular geometrical patterns for this standard building. The whole ice cave was a square warehouse, the inside of which was divided into 21 rooms with different sizes. The temperature inside was kept lower than -18 degrees Celsius, while the other indicators like moisture inside the ice cave were most suitable to store food. After faintly sensing it through the teleportation gate of the castle of black iron, Zhang Tai had known the situation inside. "Oh, do we need lots of energy to sustain this ice cave?" Zhang Tai asked Heller in his mind. After using the castle of black iron so many times, Zhang Tai had learned one law: there's no free lunch in this world. It only requires a bit of energy. Because the castle of black iron has a relatively closed and efficient energy circulating loop, absorption and release of energy both happen in the castle of black iron. I mean, you only need to throw some bricks into the pool of chaos. The energy converted from these bricks would enable this super large underground ice cave to run for hundreds of years with this low temperature. It is similar to the magma cave which was used to plant the fiery flame red lotus. Hearing Heller's explanation, Zhang Tai finally understood. Only after a few minutes, Zhang Tai had noticed a broken tentacle of the monster, half of which was floating on the sea. That tentacle was almost 100 m. Its thickest part was even greater than Zhang Tai's height. With a glance, Zhang Tai knew it weighed at least hundreds of tons. Back on the continent, Zhang Tai could never bring such a huge thing into the castle of black iron as he could not carry it at all. However, he had a much easier solution in the sea. After locking onto the huge tentacle with his spiritual energy, Zhang Tai grabbed one end of that huge tentacle. After that, he opened the teleportation channel of castle of black iron and absorbed that huge tentacle in together with a great amount of seawater. Zhang Tai obtained this technique when he traveled in the sea several days ago. If an object could float in or on the sea, it meant that its weight equaled to its buoyancy. Although it was there, it was in a special state of zero weight for the castle of black iron. Therefore, Zhang Tai could move it into the castle of black iron using this method. When seawater poured into the pool of chaos, that huge tentacle was thrown into the largest room in the underground ice cave. As it was his first time to move such a long tentacle into the castle of black iron, Zhang Tai felt it a bit difficult to do despite his great physical strength. However, everything he did for this was worthwhile. The moment he thought that he could add hundreds of tons of flesh into the warehouse of the castle of black iron, Zhang Tai would be very energetic in doing that. In the next half an hour, Zhang Tai found another 2 broken tentacles and teleported them into the castle using the same method. 1 hour later, Zhang Tai saw the hill-like body of the huge deep-sea monster 70 kilometers away to the south of the polar light. Some of its 8 tentacles had been broken while its body was covered with wounds caused by the star and moon sword sage. Only 5 tentacles of different lengths were left with it. Zhang Tai took a look at the huge deep-sea monster and found that its eyes had been dug out. Zhang Tai didn't care whether its eyes had special functions, he only cared about its flesh. It was so huge. Even with the method that he used before, Zhang Tai could still hardly move it into the castle of black iron. Staying in water, Zhang Tai thought about it for a short while before taking out of his double carp swords. He firstly chopped off all the tentacles and teleported them into the castle of black iron, leaving a hill of flesh. It was the most tiring thing that Zhang Tai had ever done since he was born. It took him 4 hours to dismember the huge deep-sea monster and move them into the castle of black iron. After doing this, Zhang Tai was exhausted. It was really a great test for Zhang Tai both spiritually and physically to teleport all of its flesh into the underground ice cave of the castle of black iron. Commoners could never make it. During this process, the sharp and long double carp swords helped Zhang Tai a lot. Holding the sword's handle, as long as Zhang Tai released sword chi several meters in length, he would leave a huge wound on its body and tentacle. After circling around a tentacle with his double carp swords, Zhang Tai would soon break it off. If it was a shorter sword, it would be much harder. After doing this, Zhang Tai felt pretty satisfied and safe. This time, Zhang Tai finally understood the old Chinese saying, with grains in hand, one would not be flurried. Old Chinese sayings are really wise. Zhang Tai sighed inside. He estimated that the flesh as high as a hill in the castle of black iron and would weigh at least 4,000 tons. No matter how long the holy war would last, Zhang Tai knew that he wouldn't worry about meat to eat anymore. this huge deep-sea monster would enable Zhang Tai, his family members, and friends to survive longer than 100 years. What a worthwhile trip. Thinking of that trouble reappearance fruit and the flesh as high as a hill, Zhang Tai burst into peals of laughter. After leaving the Polar Light more than 5 hours, Zhang Tai silently climbed back onto the deck of the Polar Light wearily from the gangway ladder. He was wet all over. When he was aboard, some passengers on the deck were almost stunned to death. They even took Zhang Tai as a monster in the legend. Otherwise, who could climb on board from the sea in the middle of the night? Pointing at Zhang Tai, one of them even stammered, Who are you? Don't worry, I'm also a passenger of this ship. I dropped off into the sea just now. Thankfully, I'm good at swimming and survived. Zhang Tai said with a fearful look as he took off his shoes and poured out the sea water. After that, he lifted his shoes and returned to his own cabin in wet clothes under the amazing looks of those people, leaving them glaring at each other. When Zhang Tai was out of his cabin, he found Al going out to the washroom. At the sight of Zhang Tai, Al widened his eyes and seemed to be wake up instantly. Peter, what are you doing? I dropped into the sea just now when I was sleepwalking, so I swam for a while in the sea. Zhang Tai smiled, revealing his white teeth. Before Al replied, Zhang Tai had opened his door and entered his room. Closely after that, he shut up his door, making a loud sound, bang. Dropped into the sea while sleepwalking and swim back? Looking at Zhang Tai's door, Al muttered, lunatic. In the next 5 days, Zhang Tai ate food made of the flesh and tentacles of the huge deep-sea monster in the dining room. To tell the truth, it was really fresh, yummy, and tender. Although it was not the staple food, after eating it for 5 days, Zhang Tai still liked it. Especially when it was cooked with spices, Zhang Tai felt it was pretty good. Thinking about his storage in the castle of black iron, Zhang Tai almost burst out laughing in his sleep. On the 6th day, the scarred polar light finally arrived at Esquile City, the only city on ice and snow wildness, 1 day later than the estimated time of arrival. During these days' travel by ship, Zhang Tai was told that Esquile meant the place where my lord is coming, in the local language, which was hilarious and strange. On August 2nd, 890th year of the Black Iron calendar, it sprinkled in Esquile, making the port hazy. After taking a deep breath, Zhang Tai left the deck of the Polar Light and landed on the ice and snow wildness on foot after 8 days of bumpy travel on the sea. Chapter 400, Being Tracked. At the sight of Esquile City, Zhang Tai began to recall Kalar City. As the only city in the ice and snow wildness, Esquile was qualified to be a magnificent city. Esquile was also a huge city being built against a mountain. Standing at the wharf, Zhang Tai caught sight of the tall gray city wall in the drizzling rain while facing the special wild feeling from the ice and snow wildness. Besides being shocked by the size of Esquile City, Zhang Tai also sensed something tough and wild. Those pioneers disembarked and rapidly left the wharf, boosting the taxi industry and animal-driven vehicles industry present in the city. Some high-end black cars were parked by the gangway. The moment some influential figures disembarked, they had rushed into the black cars. With a slight shake, those cars disappeared in the drizzling rain. Watching the star and moon sword sage leaving by car, Zhang Tai narrowed his eyes. Can pieces of the Star of God truly be found in the underground of Hadila glacial cracks in the south of the ice and snow wildness? If not, how come even legendary figures like Samaranth came here from afar? Samarantha's intention here had been spread all over Polar Light these days. Everybody believed that Samaranth was here for the pieces of the Star of God. Additionally, Samaranth didn't deny it, which made more or less confirm the speculations. Zhang Tai felt the turbulence of the airflow through the fine hair over his neck as he also heard the familiar footsteps. Therefore, Zhang Tai didn't dodge, instead, he stood still and waited for the hand being placed on his shoulder. Peter, how about going together with us? Sam and Jerry carried a high pioneering luggage and wearing a waterproof cloak respectively as they walked out from behind Zhang Tai. Are you going to Hadila Glacial Crack? Zhang Tai asked. Of course. Aren't all the pioneers coming here for the relics and the pieces of the Star of God? Sam answered confidently. I'm afraid that we cannot share any of the pieces of the Star of God, but if we can find the relics, we might able to earn a bit. Jerry added. I want to improve my fighting skills in some other places. As Hadila Glacial Crack is too boisterous now, I might not able to make any gains if I went there. Zhang Tai smiled. As he was already the target of Magical Snake Island, he didn't want to bring dangers to his new friends. Additionally, he was not here for any relics or pieces of the Star of God at all. Although they were very attractive, especially the pieces of the Star of God which had many marvelous effects, Zhang Tai knew that he could not share any part of the pieces of the Star of God with his limited abilities. The moment he watched Samarantha's great fighting strength, Zhang Tai had known that it was no different than seeking death by competing with Samaranth. If Samaranth is here, the other powerful ones who are as powerful as Samaranth might also come. If so, it's not the business of a newbie like me. I'd better focus on forming 7 strength fruits. People can't always survive on luck. Zhang Tai mumbled inside. All right. Hope to see you later. We will go to Hadila Glacial Crack now. When we finish our task there, we will come back to Escal City and stay here for a long time. Sam and I both plan to break through to LV6 before leaving the ice and snow wildness. Therefore we'll be heading to some entrances in ice and snow wildness leading to the underground world where we can form our battle chi. If you want to look for us, just go to the Pioneers Bar in Escal City. Wish you good luck. Oh, here are my gifts for you. Saying this, Zhang Tai took out 2 vials of all-purpose medicament and gave one to each of them. Considering that the all-purpose medicament had been sold across the continent, Zhang Tai was not afraid of exposing his real status by gifting 2 vials of all-purpose medicament. What's this? Sam and Jerry looked at them with curious looks. All-purpose medicament gifted by my friend. All-purpose medicament? The 2 young pioneers' faces were filled with doubts. At the sight of their looks, Zhang Tai knew that they must not have heard about all-purpose medicament at all. For most of the pioneers, all-purpose medicament was still a bit far from their daily lives as a new medicament. If not Zhang Tai, they might have to wait several months before knowing this new medicament. You can take it as a preliminary antidote. When you are wounded or need to increase your physical strength or when you catch a cold, you can use it. Hee, sounds great. Its package is also not bad. Thanks, buddy. Sam and Jerry then put away the medicament as they were still dubious about Zhang Tai's words. They felt that Zhang Tai was boasting to a certain degree. However, considering Zhang Tai's kindness, they extended their thanks to him. They then bid farewell at the wharf. Al was still dealing with his goods and could not disembark at the moment. As Zhang Tai had said goodbye to him just now, he didn't wait for him anymore. Most of the pioneers directly called a car nearby the wharf and left. Hadila Glacial Crack was in the south of the ice and snow wildness on the map. It was in the wild 2,000 kilometers away to the northwest of Escal City. There was a small town called Sayata about 300 kilometers away to the west of Escal City. It was the farthest place that wheeled vehicles could reach in Escal City. All the pioneers who dreamt of wealth in the Hadila Glacial Crack chose Sayata as their first destination after they reached the ice and snow wildness. From Sayata, they would then set out for the Hadila Glacial Crack based on their own abilities. As for whether they could survive there or not, it depended them. As it was only 300 kilometers away from the wharf to Sayata, if everything went smoothly, they would arrive at Sayata at night. Zhang Tai watched Sam and Jerry and 10 more pioneers bargaining with a truck driver and getting on his old truck before disappearing rainwater the rain. Soon after Sam and Jerry left, the rain became heavier. The drizzling rainwater flowed down along Zhang Tai's neck, causing him to shiver. After glancing at that high city wall of Esquile, Zhang Tai tightened his waterproof cloak and left the wharf. 5 minutes later, Zhang Tai queued up outside the south gate of Assistance City. After being checked, he paid the entrance fee. Despite the heavy rain, all the people were still queuing up orderly outside the city gate because of the 2 lines of fully armored robust soldiers standing outside the city gate who were all taller than 2.2 m. The soldiers were wearing eccentric iron bear head helmets, making them very terrifying. A tall fighter was standing in front of Zhang Tai, who was also carrying a leather container which contained 6 metal javelins. The 2 lines of soldiers seemed to pay special attention to this person who was carrying a container of metal javelins. Zhang Tai noticed that many people among the soldiers had already focused on this fighter since the guy queued up. Feeling this, the fighter became a bit nervous as he glanced at himself several times to see whether something was not wrong. Compared to that fighter who was carrying a container of javelins, Zhang Tai was in a worse situation. The moment he left the polar light, Zhang Tai had found that he was watched by someone. The man kept spying on him all the way from the harbor to their present destination. Although hiding among the crowd, the spy still didn't move his eyes away from Zhang Tai. As he was queuing up, Zhang Tai touched the ring with common look on his 4th left finger. If not for this ring, Zhang Tai might not have realized that he was spied on by someone the moment he disembarked. The finger ring was gifted by Olina when he left St. Herner Island. It was a rare rune equipment which was called the Ring of Awareness. 2 rune effects were added onto the Ring of Awareness, an 8% increase of Zhang Tai's sensing ability, gaze alert. As long as someone looked at Zhang Tai with bad intentions for over 20 seconds from behind, this ring would warn Zhang Tai. Few people would gaze at someone from behind for over 20 seconds, strange or not. Additionally, people's eyesight was a media posse's special spiritual energy which could carry one's emotions and mentality. With this ability, the ring could receive and sense the spiritual energy thrown from others before warning the one being gazed at. This was a very rare effect, which created an invisible security blanket over Zhang Tai. With this effect, Zhang Tai knew that this rune ring must be very precious. Rune equipment like this one which could grant the wearer with some special ability were always rare goods which could even be hardly seen in auction houses. When he left the dock, Zhang Tai's finger with the Ring of Awareness felt numb. He then realized that he was spied on. The person in question was very skilled and knew how to hide in different situations. If not for the ring, Zhang Tai wouldn't even notice he was being spied on at all. However, after being warned by his finger ring, Zhang Tai sped up. When he arrived at the city gate, he finally found out who was following him. With a wisp of cold smile over his mouth corners, Zhang Tai realized that the spy must be from magical Snake Island. If not, how could such a trivial person like him be followed by someone the moment he landed in the ice and snow wilderness? Based on the power of magical Snake Island, it's normal for them to arrange some assistance and intelligence centers in ice and snow wildness. When he was on the polar light, magical Snake Island must have notified their people here through long-distance communication means. It's not difficult for them to find a person who looks like me from the passengers. Those be *****. When it was that fighter's turn to be checked, one headlight guy walked towards him from the 2 lines of soldiers and glanced at him carefully. "Is it your first time here?" The man's voice sounded oppressive yet kind, which was in sharp contrast to his personality. In Zhang Tai's opinion, this guy should roar as he might always do. "Yes." That fighter replied. "What are you here for?" "I was told an animal fight occurred somewhere in the ice and snow wilderness, therefore, I came here to improve my fighting skills and make some money." You can enter for free." After glancing at the fighter for a short while, the head waved his hands. That fighter was stunned for a second. Holding a silver coin, he didn't know whether he should put it inside the box in front of him. "You mean, I don't need to pay the entrance fee?" "Right. All the warriors with javelins would enter Esquile City for free from then on. This rule was made several days ago." Receiving the confirmation, the fighter revealed a big smile as he said, "Thanks. Anyone in any place when receiving such special treatment would be very happy. If you are confident about your throwing skill, you can attend the Eagles hunting meeting on Ural Lake a few days later. The winner would win a set of rune javelins made of aerolite." Before that fighter left, the head added. Hearing this, the fighter turned around with his eyes widely opened as he forcefully swallowed his saliva. "What? You mean a set of rune javelins made of aerolite?" "Right. Anybody could attend it?" "Yes, anybody, regardless of age and race. If you think you are able to do that, you can attend it." Additionally, I was told that the winner might even gain the favor of the holy virgins of the tribes in the ice and snow wilderness. Hearing this, even Zhang Tai had realized that the head was urging him to attend it. However, that fighter only took a deep breath twice before nodded and left with his container. He seemed to be contemplating participating. A set of rune javelins made of aerolite and being favored by holy virgins. The rewards were really attractive. Any man who liked money, women, privilege, or sharp weapons would be restless as they heard this news. Even Zhang Tai's heart raced as he was thinking about having a look at the throwing skills of those powerhouses. He said this special treatment was released a few days ago. But why? Ice and snow wildness is really boisterous these days. However, Zhang Tai could never imagine that this might be related to him. When it was Zhang Tai's turn, the head glanced at Zhang Tai with a frown as Zhang Tai's boy-toy face and pioneering look made him disgusting. You are a pioneer? Yes. 4 silver coins. The head replied in a cold voice. What? Why do you ask for 2 silver coins from others, someone free, yet 4 from me? Zhang Tai rebutted loudly. All the pioneers are here to make money. You only want to take away goods away from here without contributing nothing to us. How come that happens? Therefore, all the pioneers need to pay twice the entrance fee. After saying this, that man waved his head impatiently while those surrounding soldiers were staring at Zhang Tai with malicious looks. It seemed that as long as Zhang Tai dared to jump up, they would beat him up. Zhang Tai then threw 4 silver coins into the box silently. After that, he sped into Escale City without even looking back. When Zhang Tai left the city gate, he heard someone muttering behind him, "Why such a young man prefer to be a pioneer? Are they dreaming of gold coins dropping off the sky, humph? These pioneers are no different than hyenas. When they find rotten meat, they would rush over there. However, when they meet troubles, they would escape as soon as possible. I should suggested to the Lord that he should forbid these pioneers and from then on. These guys are nothing but crap. I don't agree with you. These guys contribute to the improvement of maps. As so many remote areas are waiting for them to explore, they are not useless. If not, I truly think that we should not allow any pioneer to step in ice and snow wildness. Mind our own business." Zhang Tai then started to run. He looked like seeking a shelter. Therefore, he was far away from those comments very rapidly. After leaving 50 m away from the city gate, he saw another figure hurriedly following in through his eye corners. Zhang Tai then narrowed his eyes. At the sight of an alley not far from him, Zhang Tai directly flashed inside. In half a minute, another figure arrived and flashed into the same alley without any hesitation. It was a very heavy rain while the day turned gloomy. Rainwater fell down from the roof and eaves of the buildings on both sides of the alley, forming 2 fine waterfalls. The ground of the alleyway had been covered with 1 centimeter high rainwater. Zhang Tai was standing against the wall under the eaves in the corner. Narrowing his eyes, he watched the waterfalls pouring off the eaves over his head. With a lightning bolt across the sky, it turned white in a split second in front of him. After a few seconds, a series of booms drifted from afar. At the same time, with a series of rapid footsteps, a guy flashed in this alley. The moment he flashed in, he saw Zhang Tai while the latter was also watching him with a smile. The man's face instantly changed as Zhang Tai launched his attack. Along with spraying raindrops, Zhang Tai moved as fast as lightning bolt. That person was also good at fighting. Zhang Tai estimated that he was about LV6. However, compared to Zhang Tai, he was nothing but crap. Zhang Tai moved in both a quick and fierce manner. 2 seconds later, with a muffled harumph, Zhang Tai had already grabbed his neck and fiercely threw his back onto a stone wall on one side of the alley. Feet in the air, that person sprouted a mouthful of blood when he was pounded onto the wall by Zhang Tai. After the blood fell into the rainwater on the land, it was soon flushed away into the drainage system with swirls. Not until then did the thunder disappeared. "Don, don't kill me, I will give you all of my money." Before Zhang Tai asked, the guy had already started to explain in a flurried look like when a commoner met a bandit. Zhang Tai then replied with a smile, "What a smart guy. He has long thought about fabricating a lie. Who else is an Esquile besides you are from Magical Snake Island?" Zhang Tai put it bluntly. I don't know what are you talking about. That man looked innocent until he heard Magical Snake Island when his pupils narrowed out of control. Although people could tell a lie through mouth, they could not cover it with their eyes. This was how Donder taught him before. If this guy had nothing to do with Magical Snake Island, when he heard Magical Snake Island, his pupils would remain unchanged or enlarge. Instead, his pupils narrowed, which meant that he was extremely nervous inside. "I'll ask you one last time. I don't want to waste time on you. Who's sent from Magical Snake Island to kill me? Tell me all of their names. Then, I will save your life. After that, you can escape from Esquile without worrying about MSI's revenge on you." Zhang Tai said calmly. "I really don't understand what are you talking about, my money." Before he finished, he looked extremely anguished. He looked down as he saw Zhang Tai poking a dagger into his body from below his left armpit. He wanted to groan yet he couldn't as his neck was being held by Zhang Tai. Before he closed his eyes, he glanced at Zhang Tai regretfully and amazingly. He didn't seem to believe that Zhang Tai had seen through his trick, made up his mind, and was that merciless. "I've told you that I don't want to waste time on you." Zhang Tai loosened his grip while that guy slid onto the ground like a pile of mud. At the same time, a lot of blood flew off his body and dyed the ground. Zhang Tai then quickly disappeared in the curtain of the heavy rain. Several minutes later, another person flashed into the alley. The moment he flashed in, he had caught sight of that guy being killed. "Damn it!" That person swore loudly.